Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Do you find yourself hating evil things like the demons of Satan? Did you know that they are actually pitiable, sad things that just want to live a good life? This evening, we're going to be talking about that. But first, I would like you to introduce the people that I will be speaking with this evening. Tonight's first guest has a voice so velvety smooth, he only recently dodged a copyright lawsuit with a major textile manufacturer. He was in the running to be the male version of Siri, and has a second channel where he does erotic ASMR videos that is called Echoes in the Night. He doesn't know Taika Waititi knows him. Despite being an actual professional writer, he slums it with us, one way to keep himself grounded, and the other is to try common American foods, like, and I'm quoting, those corn dog things, which he secretly loves. A man who ironically despises fruit, it has been reported that Jerry Seinfeld envies his ability to remain neutral and even-keeled. However, most people do not know his darker side. He is wanted here in America for murder. His victim apparently asked him if New Zealand was, quote, the one near Norway. Please welcome my first guest, an islander who knows that the sea is always right, Mr. Echo Chamberlain.
That was so good. So weird putting myself on the screen. Thanks for that. Yeah, Echoes in the Night is my main revenue stream. So thanks for highlighting that. So you know how you're in like the 60,000s now in the subs?
Yeah.
What's that like?
It feels cool, but it's sort of like on your birthday when people ask you how it feels to be a year older, and you're like, I don't know.
Mm. You don't feel any rollicking sense of momentum that you're an entity now, a star, a fixture?
Well, I was recently told, I shared this podcast or this stream, and somebody told me that I apparently made the list of horrible, hated, alt-right wing, disgusting creators on the subreddit Saltier Than Crayet. So
all right.
that nice. Makes me feel like I must be somebody. And somebody used my email address to sign up for the change.org Renew the Acolyte petition.
Yeah,
so that
awesome.
makes me feel like I'm somebody.
Yeah.
I'm fueled by hatred is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's great. Well, let's bring on our other guest. We've only got Despot of Antrim. My God, look at him there. He's muted, though. There he is.
I don't require an introduction.
Yeah, he doesn't require an introduction at all.
I'm going to make you one.
Long introduction. Oh, yeah, here's Despot. Bring him in. Get it over with.
And here's Master Niat, who's making his debut on the Echo Chamberlain live stream. It's good to see you, sir, and good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the invite. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, I was just saying that, you're the Australian who's more responsive than Robot Head, and of greater quality than Jesse Grant. So that's kind of your bag. So it's great to have you here.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well,
is that a compliment, though? Is it?
I'll take it as one.
Yeah. Well, hold on tight, everyone, because in about half an hour's time, we're going to have John Trent, who's the managing editor of That Park Place, which is a website for culture, reviews, and entertainment. And I'm really looking forward to picking his brain and getting his thoughts on popular culture. So hold on tight for that. But as you alluded to, Greg, yeah, they helped decanonize the Acolyte on change.org, creeping up towards its first 15,000 signatures. So that's great. Looking forward to that. So the ones who want to get it back, they're creeping up towards 50,000. So I don't think this one is going to be too far behind. So well done to change.org. I'm sure it's different from the usual social causes that end up on that site, but yeah. So good luck to them.
I've never gone to see what kind of stuff do they even do?
Mainly social change to do with community organization and
I actually have a change.org petition. I'll see if I can find it for you. 2 seconds, and you can share it.
That'd be great.
2 seconds. Also, I'm actually thinking of starting another one. I was gonna save this for later, but if there's anyone in the chat wants to help out, I'm thinking of starting a change.org petition to remake The Acolyte with an all-white cast.
Directed only by men, straight men.
Yep, it's going to be an all-male white cast, but it's going to be redirected word for word. So it's going to be like male white men with beards who look like me, referring to each other as she, and like the two twin sisters are going to be like just me and another me. Do you know what I mean? And we'll be like, "Oh my God, sister, how's it going?" You know,
Brilliant.
So you're going to do
meta.
the Kids in the Hall version of The Acolyte, is what it sounds like.
yeah. But and in episodes,
because I love that show.
in the episodes where they go back in time to show Osha and May's kids, it's still just going to be me as a grown man.
It sounds like a being John Malkovich version of The Acolyte, which actually would be good entertainment. I was sad to see that Manny What's-His-Face was saying that, it's one of the greatest intentions now of his career to try and get the show resuscitated. No, run, Manny. You did your
it's ironic because the cancellation of The Acolyte is the best thing to happen to his career. Yeah, now he can have one.
That's right. Well, he won't have to be femme-coded in any other roles. So, that's good for him, I suppose.
Yeah, wearing that so feminine hakama.
Yeah. Goodbye, The Acolyte. And let's hope this change.org petition grows in strength. So if anyone wants to jump on that and, add their voice, then please do so. All right, Rings of Power. I know that, Greg, your rings are powered out because you've been slutting it around from so many streams that you probably pooped out from talking about this already. But I was so confused. There cannot
be enough hatred for Rings of Power, so I've got more.
I was confused when I watched the first episode. I didn't know what was going on. Like, it's Sauron, but it's not the actor who plays Sauron, and then it's Adar, but it's not the actor who plays Adar. So I was super confused about what was going on there. And then he gets killed, and he turns into like a rolling sludge ball that rolls down a mountain, and then accrues his strength again by devouring millipedes and rats. So it was a very strange opening. I didn't know what was going on there. Were you confused in those first couple of scenes?
Your first mistake was you were confused because you were trying to make sense of it, and even the show doesn't make sense with itself. So at first, I wasn't sure what was going on. I started to get it, and I also started to fall asleep because that clocks in at 22 minutes of that episode, just explaining that he was betrayed and then came back to life. And then he apparently tried to go start his life over, and fate wouldn't allow him to. It's not his fault.
Yeah, he meets that wandering cluster of people, like peasanty people, who speak in extraordinary profundities and with extraordinary attempts at trying to capture profound and beautiful metaphors, which I don't usually expect from just wandering townsfolk. And they sort of managed to turn him. And then we're back on that ship. And then I was confused as well by that gigantic creature under the water, which seemed to roar like a bear with perfect acoustics in the depths of the ocean. So I wasn't sure how that quite works. Make Jussie Smollett Subway's global up to 51 signatures.
Yeah,
doing well.
Like I'm gonna do like a celebration once it gets to 100. We're hoping to get him in there because he hasn't had work since the whole hate crime hoax thing.
In keeping with Subway's proud tradition of hiring deranged criminals as spokesmen, we the people believe that Jussie Smollett should be made Subway's new global brand ambassador. We've been brainstorming ideas and think any of the following would be great. I can't imagine.
I'll just read those out now. Okay. Slogans: when it's minus 40 degrees outside at 2 a.m., there's no better place to be than Subway. This is Subway country. And just collaboration commercials with Jared Fogle.
That's it. Just them on screen.
I can't talk about this without laughing.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah, I can't imagine how slim Jared has become. On that prison food.
That was just a gift to comedy.
Jussie is the most annoying and frustrating name because you have to have that little half second just to prep yourself before you say it, so you don't say Jesse by mistake, and you never get used to it.
No, you don't.
Wow. So 51 signatures. That's great. Well done.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm really pleased with that.
When it's 2 a.m. and you're hungry, Subway.
God damn right.
So we talked about...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we talked about Rings of Power yesterday on B-Sub. Well, by we, I mean everybody but me, because I hadn't watched season 1 or season 2. And when I found out we we're going to be covering it again today, I decided to power through and watch at least the first 3 episodes of season 2. And I was just as confused as you were, Echo. So Sauron is now Venom. In the one of the first things we see him do once he transforms from the goo is he kills an old lady. He meets the old man Diarmid, and he admits to him that he's done evil. Diarmid tells Sauron, "You're alive because you've chosen good," but he hasn't, because we just saw him kill an innocent lady not like 5 minutes ago. He tells the old man when they're on the boat to grab hold of something, warning him that there's about to be an attack, which didn't make sense if he was just going to go and steal his king's crest. So I have no idea what's going on in this show.
Yeah.
Neither did the rest of us. In the first season, that whole crest, that was the mystery box of the first season. They kept zooming in on it. They kept people recognized the crest, and apparently it's the only one. This bag is apparently the most unique bag that anybody's ever tickled in the entire Southlands, because everybody recognized it instantly and was like, "That's the king's symbol." And it was this big thing they built up in season 1, and then as you saw, it was the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I just kind of have this. It's a family heirloom, and I don't know, I just kind of hang on it because it makes me feel good." That's it. That was the whole season.
I couldn't figure it out. So he just, this wandering peasant man just happens to have this symbol of his house or his family lineage. So by stealing that, how does Galadriel make any kind of connection that you, therefore, having this symbol on you, must inextricably be of royal blood and be bound to be returned to your people as a king? How does she extrapolate to that? I couldn't figure it out. Also,
the old man says, so Sauron asks him, "Are you the king or something?" or something like that. And the old man says, "Oh, no, my family served them." But if you're a peasant, technically speaking, in medieval times, every peasant under the jurisdiction of his local king was basically the king's property. So they were all technically servants. So it really doesn't make sense for a peasant to say, "No, but we served him." Well, of course you did. You're a peasant. All the peasants serve the king. That goes without saying.
Yeah. So that was confusing. And then they rushed to see Gil-galad, like two kids who are rushing to sort of rat on each other and to get the first word in when they go see a parent, and they're on horseback. And Galadriel's snatching at his little satchel thing. And that guy playing Gil-galad, he seems to spend 95% of the show just standing in the exact same spot. like that's his deal.
Is he the worst actor for you, the Gil-galad guy?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, he's pretty limited.
He's dreadful. He's got a very limited range. He speaks every sentence in the same neo-royal manner. And
you got to underbite.
Go ahead, Greg.
Do it too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Underbite.
The same regal manner. Each sentence. And his accent is awful. He's dreadful. And this is in a show of pretty bad. I mean, to be honest, I think Sauron's pretty good in it. He's a good actor.
He is, until he gets the same kind of weird coke bloat that Gil-galad has when he's got the blonde wig on, and he appears like a 1960s Bible illustration, with the gold light and everything. Why do they have coke bloat, these guys?
Credit. Like, he's good. I think the Disa, the Black Dwarf, she's quite a good actress. Good, actually. The woman is bloody insufferable, but I think I'm quite good at accepting when someone I dislike is a good actress. Like, for example, Brie Larson's done some excellent work, even though I can't stand her. Rachel Zegler was pretty much the only good thing in Shazam 2. She is a good actress. Amanda Stenberg is not. She's terrible, which is nice when someone's acting ability coincides with your hatred of them.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Lack of acting ability. So, I mean, there's a couple of okay things in terms of the acting. I like that they killed Village Wench, because one of the problems with this show is that it had too much cast bloat. That's Don Lemonlass's girlfriend. I call her Village Wench because I have no idea what her name is. But they killed her off screen because apparently the actress is going off to fight. She's going off to fight for women's rights in Iran.
Yeah,
which is nice. Which is nice. It's a nice change from feminists who only fight for women's rights in places that already have them.
Yeah.
So they
should have gone further. I think they should have killed off at least 4 characters. There's just way too much cast bloat here. They should have killed off the trailer trash hobbits. Female Frodo and female Sam should have been killed off, and Shamdalf.
yeah.
Do you know what they should have done with Shamdalf?
Mm.
This is what I would have done in all seriousness. Would have killed off Frudelma and Samiz, and then I would have had Shamdalf captured by an intriguing new villain, so that he's no longer wandering aimlessly around a desert.
Well, I
That would be
think
good.
what at the end of season 3, freaking what's his name? I just did a voiceover. I can't think of the names. But I think he does. Did he get? I'm having a hard time remembering. In season 3, I was fading. I was fading hard. So I didn't have a lot of good notes or good memories from episode 3 because it was utter
There's
crap.
nothing happening in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the show, we've had them wandering through the desert interminably with nothing happening, to Isildur trying to get his horse back, and then nothing happening for long stretches.
And then introducing a new character to like Isildur's love interest, and I was just thinking, Jesus, the last thing this show needs is a new character.
Yeah.
Niat, did you identify anything positive about this?
No, absolutely not. Galadriel is completely unlike the character in Tolkien's work. None of the characters are like, everything's out of sequence. I think the elves Celebrimbor makes the 3 rings for the elves before he actually makes the other 16 rings, the 9 for men and the 7 for dwarves, which doesn't make sense. And the elven rings are supposed to be made, I think, 90 or 100 years after the other 16 rings are made. Nobody behaves as they should. Like Galadriel takes no responsibility for her actions. She's at the start, I believe at the start of season 1, I think I've only seen the first 10 minutes, but she was sent to hunt down Sauron and ended up being wooed by him. Am I correct in that?
Pretty much. Yeah.
And so by doing that, she puts all of Middle-earth at risk, but never apologizes. And when Gil-galad asks her to explain what happened, she just repeats what he said back to her. And she doesn't answer his question, but then demands that Elrond do as the High King says. Like, she's so fucking insufferable.
But she did concede to being played by a harp, like a harp, even though the melody was not to her choosing. So she did sort of concede that she'd been spellbound, I suppose. But Celebrimbor is the stupidest character in this whole show. He's insufferable to me. He's a gullible moron who has this new figure waiting down at the base of the gates, because all everyone does in the show is stand around or traipse from one place to another or journey from one place to another interminably. I mean, this is going to be, they know they have to do 5 seasons of this shit. And so they just have to stretch everything out so threadbare that there's hardly anything happening on screen. And I still don't feel any empathy or interest in these characters. Muriel is still annoying. She's blind. And I'm sort of glad that something bad happened to her at the end. So that was nice.
At least something happened.
I have a question for the panel. I'm genuinely interested, and I want you to be serious about this. So in terms of watching experiences, this is certainly bottom 5 for me, because we all watch a lot of shit for our channels. But getting through these 3 episodes was excruciating. Now, I don't think it was the worst for me. Probably the worst for me was Velma Season 2. Watching all of Velma Season 2 was just nightmarish. But what about you? Is there anything that was worse for you than these 3 episodes? Because this was just, it was so hard to get through.
I think the only thing worse for me was Wheel of Time, because I knew what it was supposed to be. So I not only was it boring, but I was mad at the same time. So that was somehow worse. And that's why I started reading the Silmarillion and I stopped after the 2nd chapter of Valaquenta, I think. So I just kind of got the creation story and I was like, you know what? I don't want to read any more of this because I don't actually want to know what should be happening. And then I can just make better jokes when the show comes out and I won't be mad about the lore. And yeah, Wheel of Time, I think, is the only one that tops this. It really did take me 3 or 4 tries to finish the first episode. And part of the problem was I tried to watch that one on my phone because I was doing stuff and it's not calibrated. So if you thought it was dark on a monitor, it was it was black on my phone. I couldn't see what was going on. And I just, about every 10 minutes, I realized I wasn't paying attention and I stopped. At one point, I did actually fall asleep while watching the first episode. It was the first time it was real work to get through episodes.
Yeah, I was just struck by a kind of dismal sense of the colossal redundancy of the whole thing. It's just hollow, empty, that there's nothing happening. It's so inert. The amount of time where there's nothing happening, there's no advancement of the plot. There's no interpersonal relationships that are interesting. There's no mounting sense of conflict.
No.
The background to people is muddied. The sudden twists and turns of how people shift. Sauron is now 3 characters that people have experienced. So it's Halbrand, Sauron, and Coke Bloat 80s rocker guy with the blonde hair. So how is it, if you're just a normie, how are you keeping up with this actor and his 3 different iterations that we've seen? And how are you trying to figure out that it's somehow makes sense that Celebrimbor would see him in a new form and be coerced or convinced? And if there's a big reveal that he's saying, I am now this character, and it means nothing for the audience because 99% of the people haven't heard of this other form that he's taken, how on earth are you trying to follow what's going on? Why do you care? Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, Bronwyn, died and then probably didn't die, but then actually did die. So we see her funeral, and it's the non-relationship of non-interest between so their family was made up of, I think the boy is Indonesian, the elf is Puerto Rican, and the mother was Iranian. So that was their found family. That's been disrupted. And I didn't care about anything. I don't care if the characters live or die. And it's just the show is drearily trudging along at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
Sometimes it looks lush and opulent when they go to Muriel's coronation. It does look good. But even then they kind of fuck that up because like the big mystical looking glass thing literally looks like a bowling ball that you would see just at a typical bowling alley. It looks terrible.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
To answer your question, Despot, like the only other show I've seen that was as insufferable as this, and my general rule with television shows is if I can't get past episode 1, I just won't watch it. So I tend to watch a lot more bad films than TV shows. But Secret Invasion was probably just as bad as this for me because it has nothing to do with the canon. Like they actively told the series creator not to read the comic books, so it was just sludge, and this is what this feels like to me.
Did we do a stream about that? We all watched the first 2 episodes.
I think I only ever did watch 2, and I just watched recaps of the finale.
I remember me and Greg watched the first 2, and Echo couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Secret Invasion was something else that was so fucking boring. That just epitomized pointless, vapid, boring Marvel sludge.
Well, and Echo's right that they really it feels like they were like, well, we need an hour, and so Scamdolf is like, don't you know that nobody can give you a name? Like, whoa, wait, hey, whoa, calm down, bud. We need to stretch this. And he was like, oh, I get it. Okay, I'm sorry. Don't you know? No one.
If the seasons are drifting on, if the show is drifting on like this, and that's the problem. Why are they making the episodes an hour long each? Why not just shrink it down to 35, 40 minutes?
70 minutes. Some of these were.
Oh God.
And
here's
a character would say something and they would just stare off for 4, 5, 7, 8 seconds, and then they would go to the next scene. It's like, can we just transition? What are we doing?
Yeah.
If you were to do an editing job on this, like you just take the episode and you edit it, re-edit it in your own way. You can even use some extra footage, like establishing shots from other shows, things like that, just on your own computer. Do you think you could make something that is ultimately watchable by maybe chopping out a third to one half?
I would cut more. I could cut the 3 episodes down to 25 minutes, but it would still be awful for lovers of Tolkien. Maybe normies might enjoy the 25-minute cut that I make, but everybody else is still going to hate it.
I could cut the 3 episodes down to 0. That'd be far better.
That would be way better.
Yeah, just make it doesn't exist. I'm interested, Niet, because you know the lore, but you didn't watch the first season. So when he did the Jesus moment, when Jesus Sauron comes from the clouds and declares you would be the Lord of the Rings. You knew what was going on though, right? Like you understood who the Anatar
Yeah. I mean, I knew he was Anatar and he was the Lord of the Gifts and he'd be sort of manipulating Celebrimbor. I haven't read the Lord of the Rings since I was in high school, which is about 15 years ago. But I'm very familiar with that sequence of events. But what's funny is, like, I think in my first episode of FCE Live, about almost like a month and a half ago, we were joking around about the Rings of Power. And I was saying, you know what? I wouldn't put it past these show creators to have Sauron say, I am the Lord of the Rings. And lo and behold.
Yeah.
Well, they
Oh,
did.
God.
They did. What? Galadriel had the vision, and Celebrimbor was in the vision, and he starts spouting off the this many rings for the dwarves, this many for men. Like he starts reciting it, and I'm like, why would you know that? Why would you know the number of them and that exact phrasing? Because they were just like, it needs to be in your face. You need to know that this is connected to the thing that you like, even though it doesn't resemble it in any real way, except for the names.
Well, I think they're trying to imply that the ring that she has on, which falls to her feet, by the way, Nenya, is giving her some sort of foresight. But it's information that Celebrimbor doesn't even know yet. He hasn't begun making the rings yet. He doesn't know how many are going to be made. So even within this world's own logic, she shouldn't be able to know that.
Well, I'm also interested because it's it was 9 for the dwarves, right?
7 for the dwarves, 9
7
for men.
That's right. So we've only met 2 dwarves. We've met the king and his son, and they're both emotionally stunted and can't talk to one another. So that's 2.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the other 5 supposed to come from?
Good point. Yeah.
Have we seen them yet? Like in season 1?
Wear one.
No. This show it sprawls all over the place, but it's also weirdly claustrophobic. Like, how can they have an overbloated cast, but also we're strangely limited at the same time? It's very bizarre. You got we only have 3 dwarves and then background dwarves, and that's essentially what we've got so far from the show. I don't know where these other guys are coming from.
Nihat, seeing you seem to be something of a lore slut, I've got a question for you. Who are the Tusken Raiders?
Yeah, good question.
The Tusken Raiders. Do you mean the men of Run?
Yeah, the guys running around with the skull masks on, sent by Kieran Hines to capture Shamdoff.
They're badass is what they are. Anybody with a golden skull mask is super cool.
Can't you tell by the way that they look? So I think they're just supposed to be men of the East and Eastlands of the Western Tongue, and who end up being loyal to Sauron. So they're inherently evil, I guess.
Okay. Well, that'd be a change because now the orcs have families and souls and feelings. So I'm glad
maybe
there's
they're
some
the new
actually,
bad guys. Maybe what's going to happen is the orcs and the men are going to team up together to defend their children from these oncoming Tusken Raiders of the East. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, I don't want to keep a new arrival waiting. So I'd invite everyone in the panel and in the chat to sit up straight and be on your best behavior, because it's my pleasure to introduce John Trent, who is the managing editor, I should say, of That Park Place, which is a wonderful and I think undervalued online hub for culture and entertainment news and reviews and gaming reviews. And it occupies a very sort of unique space in that sort of online journalism. So I'm very happy to be able to say hello to, if I can add him to the stage. I just got rid of him again. John Trent. Hello, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me. How are you guys doing?
Doing well,
very
man.
well.
It's good to stream with you.
Doing good.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
I want to answer that last question before we get any. Those are leftovers from the Solo movie.
Oh, really?
Those were diversity mascots. Her little troop, right? She takes off her helmet, and it's the big reveal. We find out that it's actually a 9-year-old girl. Yeah, that's her guys.
Yeah. I imagine how those gold helmets are going to get pretty scorching hot in the sun too, one would imagine, but I'm sure that's the least of their worries. So, John, I've been meaning to. I'm so glad that you decided to come on with us, because there's a lot of us in this sort of sprawling YouTube fraternity who will often cite That Park Place for articles, for takes that we think are interesting. And I wanted to get a sense of where you feel that Park Place sort of resides in the ecosystem of journalism, and how things are going over there with you and your team at the moment.
Yeah, so right now things are really going great. We had our best month ever as far as traffic and page views. So we're constantly growing. We had 20% increase in homepage traffic, which is really good. That means we're getting people who are coming back usually every single day, at least maybe checking in once a week. We're constantly getting people to come back to the website. So that is a really good metric that I like to look at. So things are going fantastic as far as that is. as far as growth and everything, especially since I kind of took over in January, kind of 10x the site already. And we're looking at continuing to grow that as we move forward into, I guess, this fourth quarter here. If you count by regular quarters, I guess we're still kind of in the third, but fourth quarter is coming up. And then obviously into the new year. Got lots of plans going on. Hopefully some things, chips go our way and some really good things happen. And we'll really be off to the races in growth mode. So looking forward to that. As far as in the ecosystem, I've kind of been doing this for a while. I used to be the editor-in-chief of Bounding Into Comics. I own boundingintocomics.com. Had a falling out when new ownership came in about a year ago. I guess it was like last October. So basically kind of doing the same kind of thing over at thatparkplace.com. Obviously a little bit more focused on video games, but I still try and do some movies and television shows on thatparkplace.com. I actually like doing a lot of the Lord of the Rings stuff because I find it fascinating to go back and like read Tolkien's letters and just kind of refresh my memory on all the stuff that he's written and the wisdom that he has. Because you find things that you might not have even like thought you were looking for, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. I like what you're talking about there. I just did that today I did an article on the showrunners explaining their. I don't know if you guys talked about this in the beginning of the show. I missed a little bit of the beginning, but talking about the orc children and how the orcs are kind of being humanized and not portrayed as kind of these vicious, evil creatures that Tolkien seemingly always referred to them as. I think there's the fifth book I was looking up on Tolkien Gateway. I couldn't find the specific quote, but the fifth book actually has the like they're always just trying to fight with each other. They're always up to no good. They're always doing like malicious, dastardly, mean things, even when they aren't being kind of ruled by either Morgoth or Sauron. So that was in Histories of Middle Earth. I think it's the fifth book where it goes into kind of the orcs and stuff like that there. But
I think he softened up a little bit, Tolkien towards the end, but not in the sense of like wanting to change things canonically. He kind of like wished that they were a little bit, rather than actually having any impetus to make any changes to what they were. So he established what they was. And so you have these very kind of lightweight people who were saying, no, like not only do the orcs have feelings and sentiments and souls and aspirations, but Tolkien himself even, thought towards the end, blah, 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 blah. So he might have become a little bit more sympathetic to how they could converse or hold conversations or anything like that, but not in any sense that would be change what he'd already established. So that's why we turn to you, John, because we're so exhausted by these lightweight takes and flaky views that people have on all these other things. And occasionally you'll get a bit of pushback, being anti-woke and that kind of thing. But if anyone who sort of peruses that Park Place and Bounding Into Comics as well, I don't see it as being especially editorial. I don't think that's really what you guys are interested in all that much. I think you guys are just more diligent. Just here's the situation, here's what it is, and doing your breakdowns. So would you agree that you guys don't seem especially editorial to me? You just seem like more kind of straight down the middle. Here's the takes and assessments we have.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what your definition of editorial is. Not to get into semantics, but I definitely feel like I do provide some editorialization. It's not like I'm inserting myself, though. It's not like saying like, I think this, or it's not like in your face like that. It's usually more of like, okay, I'm going to go cite someone who's been talking about this subject for X number of years. They usually do have significant authority. There's been discussions about this, maybe sometimes even hundreds of years, especially if we're dealing with topics of gender ideology or things like that. I like to cite. I'm a practicing Catholic, so I will cite the Catholic Church and its teachings that have been pretty consistent for about a little bit over 2,000 years. So I do cite some of that stuff. I don't know if you consider that editorialization, but I do cite that. And it's usually trying to kind of bolster the argument or explain why we should oppose this stuff and why this is wrong. Because I think a lot of times, like you're talking about, we have this kind of like instinct. We know something's wrong. We like have this idea that it's wrong, but we don't fully understand why it's wrong or why we reject it, or why, or even the opposite, right? We know something is good and just, and we might not fully understand why it's right and just. And so I like to try and provide those reasonings and give a little bit depth to that. And I do that again across the board, right? It's not just on things like that. Like you said, I do try and dive into what Tolkien wrote, dive into the plethora of examples. Like just in this article that I wrote today, I gave an example from Return of the King. I gave an example on the orcs, obviously the famously misquoted Frodo quote to Samwise explaining that the orcs are corrupted and everything. And then I talk about Treebeard's comments to Merry and Pippin about the Uruk-hai and how they are potentially race mixing or breed mixing or whatever, however he uses it between orcs and humans. And he's just speculating. And even Tolkien actually talks about that in one of his letters where he's like, well, Treebeard isn't all knowledgeable. He's not one of the wise ones. He doesn't have all the knowledge. So he's just out there speculating. He doesn't know for sure. And Tolkien likes to play that a lot, right? If you read a lot of his letters, he leaves a lot of it up to kind of speculation or interpretation, I guess. I don't want to say speculation, but interpretation, and that people may be commenting on something and it's not his voice. He's not speaking through the characters. It's just that character is the one who's actually saying that. And that's the knowledge that character has. And that character is the one who's providing that opinion. And then I obviously also went into the Silmarillion and his description of the orcs and how they were corrupted by, or they're corrupted Quendi elves. And also, what else did I say? Oh, and I cited some of his letters. And a lot of his letters are extremely consistent on the orcs as well. He doesn't really, like you said, he doesn't really soften it. He kind of provides further explanations that still kind of come to the same conclusion that these are evil, nasty creatures that have been fully corrupted.
And yeah, we'll expand on that in a little bit. I probably brought up the wrong piece of yours, but this is a recent piece by John. Yeah, Star Wars Outlaws sales 55% lower than Star Wars Jedi Survivor in the United Kingdom. So by your assessment, this game perhaps isn't bound for good things?
It doesn't look like it's doing really well. We kind of have been, obviously, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mark Kern or Grums on X. He has this kind of 2 years boycott all AAA games kind of campaign. And looks like a lot of gamers are indeed following that. We saw Concord got shut down today, less than 2 weeks after it was released.
That was amazing.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you can't make it up. I mean, they spent who knows how much, at least over $100 million.
Yeah.
And,
what was it? 8-year development time?
Yeah, the lead character designer said they spent 8 years. He worked on it for 5. So yeah, I mean,
8
just
years
massive.
to make an Overwatch clone, basically, but $40, where Overwatch is free.
Yep, Overwatch clone with all the DI agenda and everything. 'Cause it was just they just found out that one of the characters was a man pretending to be a woman.
Oh yeah, there's a transgender character. Yeah,
just one. Yeah. Just one.
There's probably more. I mean, this is just the one that we know is confirmed, right?
Was it the one with the big raincoat?
Right, okay.
The giant.
It's the Michael Jackson, the raincoat, like with the Michael Jackson shoulder pads and stuff.
Do you know, I actually find that quite interesting that the development period was 8 years, because when you look at that game and just the screenshots alone, it looks like something from 2016. It looks like something from 2016, 2018. It's already dated. You know, for example, Borderlands. When Borderlands came out, a lot of people were saying, okay, this looks like something that could have come out 5 years ago. It's got that insufferable girl boss trope. I mean, Kate Blanchett in that is just Guy Ladriel from season 1 of Rings of Power. It's dated, it's done, it has been. People are sick, so fucking sick of that trope. But it was put into development years ago, which is why it's still there in the movie. If it was put in development last year, you wouldn't see that, I don't think, because even Hollywood studios have caught on to the fact that people are sick of the Mary Sue girl boss trope. And when you look at this garbage game that has flopped, yeah, it looks like a lot of the stuff in there is very dated, very 2016 type, sort of almost SJW era garbage.
Yeah, they kind of admit. I mean, we saw that with Dustborn, where they kind of admitted that it was inspired by the 2016 United States election campaign. So I mean, that's just a whole other story. But get back. I'll get back here to Star Wars Outlaws. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's doing really well. We kind of. I mean, if you go through this article, I have a bunch of information on here. It's not just these UK sales charts. There are some information from Stuttering Craig. From his inside source at a unknown retailer a box store retailer about the pre-order sales for this game that were not very good, especially in comparison to Concord, even worse than Concord, it looks like potentially. You look at the Twitch viewership, it has massively declined since the game was in early access, in both peak viewership as well as in average viewership, especially if you compare it to a game like Wukong. I think Wukong has average viewership higher than the average viewership of Star Wars Outlaws peak. And that's even just today, even though that game's been out for almost a month. I mean, I guess we're 3 weeks, I guess, for Wukong. So it's still going really strong, whereas this game looks like it's already kind of fallen off. People aren't watching it anymore. And I don't know if that's based on how long the game is. I've heard that it's only about a 15-hour game or so. And most of the gameplay is awful.
You look at it, it's just not fun. I've seen a few clips of it. It's not fun to watch. It's disgusting looking. Like, it just has terrible art direction. And when you bring up Wukong, like, Wukong is gorgeous. I have more pictures taken in the photo mode of that than I have actual game progress made, because every time I've come across a new statue or something, or I'm trying to like pull a photo off in the middle of an attack because I want it to look cool, even though nobody ever sees my photo mode pictures but me, but I don't care because it's gorgeous. So yeah, watching that is beautiful. Watching this is it's Tatooine again. Like, who wants that?
Yeah.
Well, we've got a binary sunset, because you don't just need Luke to have a binary sunset or for Rey to enjoy a binary sunset. You also need this character in this video game to enjoy a binary sunset.
I think saw that totally derivative.
I was going to say, I think the success of Wukong shows how sick and tired people are of the whole DEI insertion into video games and pop culture and media, because Wukong cost 25 million less than this did. It was in development for 6 years and has sold, I think, over 100 million copies. And I think on that Park Place, you guys reported that it had 2.4 million concurrent players. So
yeah,
get rid of that stuff.
There. I think it's like 10 million. I think they sold 10 million copies within like 3 or 4 days.
Sorry, 10 million. Yeah.
I don't think it sold 100 million. Yeah, that would be insane.
John,
I mean, when you look at like Wukong, like when they reported it, like to tie this into Acolyte, like Amanda said, oh, everybody hated our show from the beginning. It never had a chance because everybody hated it from the beginning. Well, when I remember the very first news that came out, there was almost no news. There was an announcement, hey, they're making a show. It's called The Acolyte. It's a Star Wars. It's a set 100 years. And one of the only articles you could find was about how Leslie said, oh, of course, my queer identity is gonna make its way into, like, that was the big headline that you could find. Yeah. There was no news about that show other than we're going to make sure it's diverse. We're going to make sure it's representative. You know, the director is a lesbian, and it's going to be about that. Whatever. The only reason anybody ever talks about gender in regards to Wukong is because of an IGN hit piece that tried to paint them like the developers never talked about it ever. They didn't lead with it. They didn't talk about how it would be good or bad in the game. They just said, hey, we're making a third-person action, kind of a Soulsy thing, and it's going to sell. It's going to tell the story of Sun Wukong, and it's going to be fucking cool. It looks amazing. Here's a trailer. It looks goddamn awesome, and everybody's so excited. Nobody involved with that game talked about gender or anything regarding identity. Other people tried to inject that from the outside, and like you take a look at those two conversations. One says, we made a great product and we want you to have this great product. And the other says, here's all the identity bullshit. And we don't even want to talk about the product. We want to talk about what we want to talk about. And then which one got money and which one didn't? Like, it's not shocking.
Mm-hmm. No, not at
all. So John, I also wanted to ask, how conscious are you or aware of our sort of ecosystem of YouTubers? Do you watch our videos and get a chuckle every now and again? And so how sort of are we on your radar?
I'll be honest, I'd never heard of you before.
I'll take the hit. Yeah.
So I'll be working.
No, but I mean like a critical drinker nerdrotic type of thing. I mean, like
yeah. So I'm very familiar with critical drinker and nerdrotic. I met Gary at New York Comic Con back in 2019 before COVID, with Jeremy Griggs as well with Geeks and Gamers. So I've met a bunch of those people in person, I guess, before COVID. Obviously, I've had some things happen in my life where I had 2 kids, and so I haven't really been out and about. But there's a different audience when it comes to readers and YouTubers too. And that's probably why I created a website first, because I'm more of let me just read something rather than listen to someone or watch
Mhm.
someone. That's just how I operate. And I think there is a distinction there. Obviously, I think that is maybe changing over the course of time here. I think more people are obviously more interested in the video content. So I obviously make videos now too. But I don't typically watch videos in general unless I'm looking at an interview that maybe Kim Belair of Sweet Baby Inc. or something like that said, or someone has a rumor or a rumor video or something like that, and they have a scoop, and I'll watch that for that. And it's mainly me hunting for stories that I can write on the website.
Cool.
But yeah, that's just kind of how I normally engage with media.
Cool.
Echo, can you show that video? Because it contains some of the bugs from Star Wars Outlaws. And as much as we can talk about it, did you get that? Did I share that?
No, I don't think I have it, unless it's down in the second tier here. I don't think I see it. Yeah, I just got your other one here. Because sometimes there's a thing here.
Right. Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I
put
have
it
it
in
now.
there.
Okay. Yeah.
So this video shows some of the bugs from Star Wars Outlaws.
Yep.
And
I'll walk it off.
Are you sure about that? Period.
No, Bram. Good. That's a conversation I don't need.
I mean, look at these textures.
Yeah, it's
hideous.
awful, isn't it?
Like
Yeah.
that is PlayStation 2 level textures.
It is.
Of brick.
I was gonna say it's
and
like
shingle.
AC2 right here. It's Assassin's
I mean,
Creed 2. Like,
impact. Like the fucking impact is bugged.
And look at how where is she? Like this city that she's in is completely empty.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
I'd make an argument this is Nintendo 64 graphics.
I wouldn't.
I mean-
it's not that level, but it's GameCube. Like, I mean, a GameCube game. I've seen better look. Like Super Mario Sunshine looks much better than this.
It's like
Much better
90s Tomb
texture.
Raider.
Oh my goodness.
And look at that. That's what is that? That's hideous.
Ugh.
There's not trash. There's not a barrel somewhere. There's
Look at the windows.
she
Look
runs
how
weird
ugly
too.
and crap those windows look.
I
Now
mean,
those
why
windows
make
look
this-
90s PC.
why
That
make
is
this map so
pathetic.
big when there's nothing in it?
Jesus.
But this is
Oh, it's
typical
spotted
Ubisoft
somewhere.
Hey, look, there's
right
a
here.
ship. There's a ship, Greg. There's
It's not
one
another
ship.
living thing. Yeah, this is very typical Ubisoft to just make a giant map with nothing in it. What is
Jesus.
this?
Falling through two roofs. Oh, yep.
I could watch this for hours because it's actually quite surreal. Like, I'd like to get stoned and watch this. It would be quite fun. Oh my god. Nightmarish. Fucking hell. Going around in
The
circles.
character as well. The character is so visually uncompelling. She's just so boring to look at. And I don't mean like she's ugly. She's not cool in any way. It's a very dull character. Her movements are dull. It's so plain. It's so vanilla. There's nothing interesting about it.
So
What's
I
that
guess
thing
some
going
people
through?
are-
Good. She's gonna get crushed to death.
I guess some people are saying that this video is she's clipped out. Like this isn't actually what the game should look like, but she clipped out and can't get back in.
This is like early World of Warcraft, like right when it launched, all the bugs that you would have, like the launch week. You played that.
What's weird to me is if she's clipped out, why does all this infrastructure exist outside the game area?
Gigantic rock.
No, because she's in the quest area.
Yeah.
When she leaves the quest area, that little screen comes up, so she's in the game. Like the character's in the game. It's not.
I mean, she's in the
This
game, but
isn't
I think
a skybox or a city box or something.
somebody's saying that this is not what it's supposed to be. That like this is a bug, but she bugged out of the.
It's a hell of a bug.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a lot of explorable area that shouldn't be there.
So is this beta content that they scrapped? That's what you're saying, and that the player accessed through a bug?
I don't know.
Well, in any case,
Okay,
this
watch
is
this
how
anymore.
this is how broken this game is after a 6-year development period, hundreds of millions of dollars. AAA, $130. This thing, they expect you to pay $130, $120 for this.
Well, did you hear about the people that paid extra to get early access? It released on a Tuesday, but they called that early, and then everybody that only paid $70 got a 3-day late penalty, and they were only able to access it on Friday. But the people that paid extra to get the early access, the game was shit, and they patched it. And one of the patches for console players caused them to have to restart the game entirely. So it corrupted their old save file. It would not transfer over to the new fixed version. So the extra money they paid, they wasted 2 or 3 days, and then the patch erased everything. And Ubisoft said, here's 100 Ubi credits for our online store where you can buy digital goods or whatever. That'll make it better.
Yeah, basically what happened is you left the planet, you went up into space, and you couldn't return back to the planet. So you basically got stuck in space and couldn't continue the game. They had a game-breaking bug that they didn't patch out.
It's incredible.
Charming.
And when you say that this looks shit, like I'm sure you guys, well, John, you probably get it too. And I don't know if you talked about this one, but people, love to call you all kind of names. Like, how can you judge it? Like, this was clearly shit when it was announced. Like, I mean, it has garbage written all over it. And then you see these clips, and they're all like, these aren't one-offs. This crap is everywhere.
There's
and even
hundreds of those. That's
just
works. I just chose that one because of texture and impact, but there are tons of clips showing AI problems, shooting impact problems,
shooting into the wall. Yeah.
Well, and even the ones that show
my favorite is the stormtrooper runs right up to her face and still doesn't see her.
Well, because she's in a bush, she's in a clump.
Oh, the Asmongold one where he's just hiding in the. You've seen that? Have you seen that? That was really good. It's in the bush. They're all shooting at the bush and they're still missing her. What's going on?
But like, even I've seen clips of like normal gameplay, like not bugged out, not terrible like that, like actual just regular gameplay, and it still looks horrible. It looks boring. It looks not fun. The whole lockpicking minigame thing, they were like, this is fun. We'll do this everywhere. It looks horrible even when it's playing the way it should. And
well, I want to go back to Middle Earth. Je suis orc, because this is fascinating to me now. So what was their thinking? So we're going to have a sympathetic orc who's family orientated, who kind of isn't, averse to the idea of going to war, but also his values and priorities have changed because he's a family man now. So he's torn between two conflicting loyalties. One is because everyone doesn't like their race and thinks they're abominations, and he has loyalties there, but also loyalties to home and hearth, where, he's got a mewling infant to take care of. And so between these two priorities, approaching Adar and, trying to be as discreet as you could possibly be, and being rebuffed.
As his wife and child are standing right behind him.
Yeah.
Happen to be
and
there.
So suddenly we now have this notion that they're not just goblin-like creatures who are malicious, spiteful, without any empathy, and are just a kind of marauding, purposed kind of army, kind of disposal army that is just pure, full of hatred, and is a kind of debauched and degraded kind of humanity. So to now make it sort of morally relativist, where they've also got aspirations and they've also got family ties and conflicting loyalties and perhaps even a bit of heart, and they've got solemn eyes. And so now we also have to think that there's orc sexual intercourse and like all the variables and things that could emerge from that.
I actually don't think that's a problem. Tolkien kind of leaves that open-ended. He does say they reproduce like the children of men, so I think it's fine for them to reproduce that way. Because remember, they are elves, right? They're elves, but they're still corrupted, and elves obviously have sexual relations. So I don't think there's any. I don't have
notions of consent or life partner.
No,
things are perhaps a little less.
Yeah, there's it very probably different how it happens, but I definitely think they still have biological functions.
Yeah.
My contention isn't with them breeding. It's just the fact that they're supposed to be destructive, warmongering. They're cannibals. They eat men. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand the point of man flesh. Correct. So I don't understand why they're being portrayed as sympathetic
lines, right? From Two Towers.
Man,
meat's back on the table, boys.
But so now when I think of Helm's Deep, I think of like Legolas and the orc, and they're going, 1, 15, 16 as they're killing them, and now it just seems really heartless and indiscriminate, and they seem kind of conceited and bad, just killing these orcs who are just trying to do their job.
Yeah, they just want to go home to their families. No, it was insane. It was just such a weird, because I didn't realize back in the lore they reproduced, because in the movies they show them pop out of the mud, which I guess was one of the liberties that
Those are the-
Peter Jackson
those
took,
are-
so that was incorrect on that one.
Those are also different, right? So those are Uruk-hai, which are Sauron's creations, which Treebeard, which I was talking about earlier, Treebeard speculates they are corruptions of men interbreeded with orcs, whereas orcs are different. And there are different tribes of orcs too, because you have Azog's tribe from The Hobbit, who's a little bit more independent from a lot of the orc tribes that Sauron controls initially.
But their characteristics are always consistent, right?
Yes,
But
they're malicious.
you want them to,
evil,
exactly.
warmongering.
You want them to be this approaching threat, that whenever there are orcs, you're in extreme danger, that they're going to give no quarter, there's going to be no sympathy, and then they're just harsh and vicious. So they become a counterpoint to the to the spirit of our heroes, and that's just basically as simple as it should be. So let's just take some weird little diversion that makes no sense to me, and it's just another softening up, that everyone should be sympathetic in some way, that villains should have some sort of relatability, or there's some story we don't know. So it's just this pussyish kind of softening up and empathy applied to all characters, irrespective of the function that they should be playing. So it's very strange. Because you can have villains who are very sympathetic. Magneto's family was tortured or killed during the Holocaust, so he's got cynically dark views about humanity. So he makes sense. And Roy Batty, he's searching. He wants more life, and he's done questionable things and been brutal. But there's also like a deeper yearning within him. So he saves Deckard and Walter White, etc. So you can have villains who are compelling, but it takes nuance, it takes an incredible amount of development, an incredible amount of context, an incredible amount of investment and talent to be able to make that work. But if you're just if you're just taking villains and then retroactively going back and swapping them or doing shit, and now Scar from The Lion King is also going to be misunderstood somehow, or got betrayed, and so he has
it's not a blood brother either anymore now. It's like adopted.
I don't even know what's going on there.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
All I know from the trailer is the toe tapping ditty. I always wanted a brother. That's the toe tapping ditty they've got in the trailer. And in Snow White, the evil queen, of course, is going to be redeemable in some way, or it's going to have some sort of motivations. And the Wicked Witch of the West just used to be a snarling, just a witch, and she's just evil and she's trying to do stuff. And now she's been reimagined as, she was misunderstood when she went to witch college or whatever it is in the new film that's coming out. And now we've got the orcs to add to that. The orcs, like, that's the lowest of the low. They're just grimy, shitty creatures who hate you. But no, to reimagine them as having pathos of some kind. It's bizarre.
Even in the Rings of Power, I think Sauron they're trying to frame him as a sympathetic character. He's supposed to have been turned into like pure evil after being corrupted by Morgoth, but the Rings of Power is sort of making him a bit of a thirst trap, much in the same way that Khmer was depicted in The Acolyte. I think it comes from the notion that the creators think evil is sexy, but they're wrong.
Yeah, there's something there. So are they going to have a Sauron thirst trap thing? Because they've got 5 seasons to play with. Will we have, it's an honest question, this season, will we have a shirtless Halbrand / Sauron / whatever his name is? I think there's a 50-50 50-50 chance of that happening, I think.
And Celebrimbor is going to be attractive to him.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a love triangle with Celebrimbor and Galadriel.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm surprised we haven't had a shirtless Halbrand already. That's very surprising.
Yeah.
Because you could have had like the exact same dynamic with Khmer and What's-Her-Face, like with Galadriel just having a little half-second glimpse downwards and back, and then going back to being kind of catty. So yeah, that's probably going to happen. So yeah, evil thirst traps. You can make evil people sexy. And you've got.
It also seems like they've got this weird this weird motive to over-explain things. So I didn't go. What did you guys go see The Crow?
Yes,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Oh, jeez.
Because I haven't
I'm
watched
sorry,
it
you
yet.
guys.
I'm not going to, so I shouldn't say yet. But I'm hearing that they like over-explained a lot of the mechanics of The Crow, and
They missed.
Oh, they killed the mystery.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
demystified the whole essence of The Crow.
Oh, that defeats the purpose of the movie.
well, I also
Correct.
just
So it's
not
like a
even
murder
necessarily
mystery where they solve the murder in the first episode, like the Acolyte.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's not
I mean,
even
the
like
whole
a
point of The Crow
demystification.
is that it's this in between worlds, mysterious sort of place, setting, aesthetic.
Yeah.
We don't want the mystery solved. We just want to sort of be in it for an hour and a half, not any longer. Just chill out there in that very strange, mysterious space that none of us understand. And you don't try to provide explanations for the mechanics because they're not. That's a materialist perspective. This is coming from a sort of spiritual understanding of death and the afterlife. There are no physical mechanics there that need to be explained. It's a
Yeah.
total
Well,
misunderstanding of the setting.
They've robbed the film of its of James O'Barr's graphic novel in the 1994 film's symbolism. So in that, the Crow sort of represented the transformation that Eric Draven was going under. But in this film, the Crow is sort of just like an appendage, like an accessory that he has no connection to him. The symbolism is gone, and it's been replaced by an entirely new character that they've created called Kronos, who basically, not only does he give exposition, but he tells Eric Draven what his objective is throughout the film.
I tell you, I will give them credit because Kronos has crow in it, so it's really clever. Like, I've got to give them credit for that.
You're right.
Did you notice that? Did you notice that when you were watching the movie, Niat, that Kronos has crow in it?
I didn't. It was too clever for me.
So, Cruella de Vil, Scar, Orcs, and the Wicked Witch of the West are to varying degrees sympathetic. So that's where we're at in popular culture. Okay, so everyone hold on tight, because what we're going to do now is we're going to do a series of brackets one by one. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and find out what is the stupidest line of dialogue in the last couple of years. Now, I've exempted season 1 of Rings of Power. Otherwise, it'd just be nothing but Rings of Power. So it's only season 2. I'm going to go through the brackets.
Ship one wins. The ship one, like the opening scene with the ships. Remember that analogy he used? That's it.
Who could forget?
Well, I've got one from season 2. Sauron used me, and under his hand I was played like a harp to a melody not of my choosing.
Well, that's on the list, but we have to go through and we have to decide which is the most stupid, inept, overwrought, overreaching, clumsy, metaphorical, twisted mess. And we'll go through one by one and ultimately decide. So our first pairing is from the Rings of Power. Panic is the fool's meal, would be best to sup on patience, versus Robin Hood's filled up the condom jar, whereas the Robin Hood one is trying to be hip and cool and also fails. So I don't know.
The Robin Hood one is kind of just like a horribly cheesy, insufferable wine aunt who kind of wants to be one of the kids, but doesn't have any kids of her own, so she doesn't realize how horrifyingly awful that is as a not just a parent, but just as a general human being. It's like, love, have you considered stopping your sexual behavior? You do know the condoms only work 70% of the time, and the condom breaks are quite common, and that you will get STDs if you continue in this lifestyle. We're really worried about you, sweetheart. Please talk to your uncle. He knows about this stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna go, but we'll call that wine aunt stuff. But panic is the fool's meal. It would be best to sup on patience. It doesn't make any sense. Like, no, panic is not a meal. Patience is not a meal. This doesn't. I understand that you're trying to go for metaphor here, but just no. It's ruinous. It's just awful.
Yeah, it's that reaching for profundity. And it's just, you're going for flowery. No, I'm going with that one.
Okay. John, where do you land?
I'm Robin Hood. That's just
You're Robin Hood.
Okay. Just degenerate.
All right. Master Niat?
I think the Robin Hood is vulgar, but the Rings of Power one doesn't make any sense, so I'll have to go with that.
Okay, Rings of Power it is. Panic is the fool's meal, would be best to sup on patience. I'll just do my little changes over here.
Beautiful.
There. Okay. And next. So our next pairing. is Have You Come Here to Destroy Me from Kenobi versus Get Away From Her, You Bitch by Andy in Alien Romulus. I'm very fond of the Kenobi one because Darth Vader has, of course, chased Kenobi down to the planet. And so at this moment where it's supposed to be high, tense drama, and he says, have you come here to destroy me? So it fucks up at a very crucial, beautiful moment, which I think is hilarious.
I would have loved if... sorry, I was just going to say, I would have loved if Kenobi responded with, you have done that yourself.
Yeah, that would have been good. And then, of course, Get Away From Her, 5-second pause, you bitch, from Alien Romulus, just repurposing the line without any sort of emotional context from Ripley. So a hard one here. So thoughts?
I'm definitely going to go with Alien because, first of all, it's a plagiarism, which is the worst crime you can commit in really any art form. And they didn't even bother to set it up properly to make it make sense. Yeah. So, for example, in Aliens, when Ripley says that, she knows it's an alien queen, hence bitch. And she's a maternal figure. She's protecting Newt. So it all makes sense, and it's all been built up, and here's our payoff. And the line delivery is excellent from Sigourney Weaver. And then in Alien Romulus, he just jumps on this alien. He has no idea what this thing's sexual characteristics are. He doesn't even know if it has a sex or if it's asexual or what it is. It could be a robot for all he knows. And he says, get away from her, you bitch. The line delivery is dreadful. It's just... And it is just key jangling, typical Hollywood trash. Oh, I hate that movie so much. Fuck everyone who thinks
if he's assuming that it's like a male or something, then he's saying it like the dude to a dude kind of bitch, like get away from her, you bitch. So yeah, that makes it the alien. Yeah. All right. So a lot of passion there from Despot. Plane going overhead. So Greg, where do you land?
Oh, I'm going Alien also. I didn't even see it. The concept pisses me off, and it took me back to The Flash when they were like, Keaton, say the line, and he just goes to the railing and you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. And
which is also stupidly out of context because that's just a dumb line where he's in character as Bruce Wayne, who's supposed to be like a weak, vacillating guy. And then he was trying to make that like a powerful line. It was so stupid.
Trying to fool the Joker, and he says it like a crazy person after smashing something. And it's the exact same idea. They were like, let's just grab a line that everybody remembers and just say it, just for no reason.
Master Nyat, where do you land?
So yeah, I think the line from Kenobi doesn't really make sense with the mechanics of what transpired before they arrived on that planet, but Alien Romulus is worse simply because, as Despot was saying, it robs Ripley of that iconic line that she has, which is grounded in a lot of meaning. And in my review of the film, I said it would have been fine if they just said, get away from my sister or something like that, which would have showed him sort of seeing Rain as his sister for the first time in the same way that she sort of saw him. But because this is set 30 years before, it just... Not only is it like plagiarizing a line, but it's canonically, this character says it before Ripley does. So that's a bigger stuff.
Yeah, that's annoying, isn't it? God damn. All right, John, looks like we're deciding on Romulus here.
Yeah, so I haven't watched either of these. I think I stopped with Kenobi because my son was born like the week the final episode came out or whatever. So I didn't actually finish it because I hated that show. But it sounds like I'm going to go with Alien Romulus just because it sounds like it personifies, that's probably not the right word, but it captures basically what's wrong with media in general, which I always like to use the Last Jedi quote, let the past die, kill it if you have to, and it looks like that's exactly what they're doing here. They're killing the past.
All right, so our next pairing, the Jedi are good, the Jedi are bad from the Acolyte versus I am good from the Rings of Power.
Oof, that's really tough.
Yeah, this is.
Who says I am good in the Rings of Power? I don't even remember.
Shandalf, he goes, I'm good.
Is that in the? Is that like which episode is that? I've only watched the first one.
It's in the last one. So
okay,
Slim,
third one.
A grim, shady, like Feminem, that sort of trio. They come up and they think he's Sauron, and then he has a staff and he says, "I'm good," and he bursts some magic at them, and that turns them into butterflies or moths or something. And
that's
turns them
that's
into
from,
ring
that
wraiths.
is from the first season then.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Last
I remember
episode.
that scene now.
What made it so much worse is that when he like that whole season, he can't speak. He falls from the sky, and like it's not even amnesia. It's like can't talk, don't know English, don't know how to eat, like ridiculous. And so this girl is explaining things to him which he doesn't understand. And at one point she says, "We have to be careful because there's peril." And he's like, "I'm peril." And she's like, "No, you're good." And then that was the callback later, 4 episodes later. He said, "I'm good." Like, he didn't understand English. He didn't understand what the fuck she was talking about. He was eating snails with crunching the shell, and like they were making him out to be a complete moron. And it just,
Yeah, I remember.
That's
I
what
remember this now. I thought this was from. I thought we said earlier there weren't anything from season 1.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, I guess this would be the exception. Yeah, but Greg, I couldn't understand why in the second season he's suddenly speaking as articulately as like Ian McKellen or something.
well, he did that in the last season, the last episode of last season. The White Witches just, I don't know what they did, but suddenly his brain was unlocked and he remembered everything and could speak. But he still doesn't know how to control his powers because they were like, well, he knows things, but we still need some kind of tension, so he can't know what to do.
I need a decision because we've got 2 precocious.
I think I've got this figured out. Also, Echo, you got the Acolyte quote wrong. It's the Jedi are bad, the Jedi are good.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, please forgive me.
Yeah, I wish I didn't know that. I'm still working on my Acolyte video. Anyway,
how's that going?
Bad brackets. These are both 1 seeds right here. How are they going up against each other so early in the round here?
All right, so I figured out the Acolyte quote wins, and I'll explain why. So you've got these 2 8-year-old or 9-year-old kids, and one asserts the Jedi are good, the other asserts they're bad, and it doesn't make any sense because they're both raised by the lesbian Jesuit witch coven, and in this witch coven, why would anyone even tell them about the Jedi? And if they did even tell them about the Jedi, it would be in very vague terms, something like, "Oh, the Jedi, oh, they're just these bad guys out there, and they're terrible, and they don't like lesbians, which is why it's great that we're all here because we're safe from them." So both of these girls would never have heard anything but a single narrative about the Jedi, right? It would almost be the equivalent of 2 8-year-old children from America today, and one says Hitler was bad, another one goes Hitler was good. Like the notion, the idea that Adolf Hitler was good or had some positive aspects to his foreign policy or domestic policy or something, that does not enter the mind of an 8-year-old. It's just, oh no, he's the bad guy. He's always the bad guy in media. Because that's what he or she has been raised to believe. So no, this doesn't make any sense. They would both believe the Jedi are bad. So it doesn't make any sense in world. It actually breaks the world building of the lesbian Jesuits little colony. And the dialogue is terrible. So there's many things wrong with this.
But the converse to that, though, Greg, is yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, hasta la vista, baby, and I am good. So it's kind of pretty far down if you want a moment of high drama like that.
I'm just to be argumentative, I'm gonna go I'm good because I was trying to type in the chat that now Despot is on record as saying Hitler is good, but it won't let me type Hitler, I guess. I've tried it twice. It won't post. But you're on video now, bud. That's gonna show up somewhere. No, I'm gonna go with I'm good. Just be argumentative because he has no idea what these words mean, and he timed it perfectly because the White Witches say he is, and then he interrupts them by saying I'm good.
Yeah.
Like he was waiting for them to say something so he could interrupt them with a cool quip.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Well, all right. So it's evenly balanced here. John, any thoughts?
I'm going to go with the Rings of Power one. I think that one's way worse. Just asserting that you're good rather than just showing by action.
Okay, Master Nia.
Yeah, I feel like both are a desecration of IPs that we love, but from what I've heard, because I haven't seen this episode, that fake Gandalf says this, it seems to not really make sense for him to not only be able to speak so clearly, but also understand his function, because he's not supposed to know who he is and what his purpose is, based on what we've seen in the show up until this point. So I'll go with I am good.
All right. I think that's. I would have gone. I'm going with the Despot, but we're outvoted, buddy. So I am good. Yeah. It's a pretty deflating thing for him to say. Like, I don't think there was anyone at home pumping their fist in the air when he said that. I don't think that was happening.
Now-
It does point to itself. It's the show telling you something you don't need to be told. Like, we can all see this. It's on screen. It's like show and tell. It's just some of the worst kind of writing. It's okay if you want to tell. Like, I don't agree with show don't tell. It's okay sometimes to tell the audience things because you can't always show them you don't have
Avengers
the budget.
Assemble is the perfect example of what you're talking about. Yeah.
But if you're already showing them, no need to tell. Just let it speak for itself. The audience aren't morons. Trust their intelligence. So it is really bad.
We want
It's a
that line from
terrible
Cap,
line.
though. You want that line from Cap when they're all
Oh, absolutely.
assembling. Yeah.
All right.
It's
So
pretty
next
close.
bracket. Okay. A rumor is like a songbird. It may sound filling from afar, but up close, it's an empty feast. That's from Disa, from the Rings of Power, versus Ahsoka. Sometimes even the right reasons have the wrong consequences.
I feel like the Rings of Power writers just needed to fucking eat when they were writing. Like, they were clearly, you don't write hungry.
Yeah. A rumor
What's
is
with all
like
these
a
analogies to meals in the
Yeah.
Rings of Power?
Yeah.
But a
I think
songbird
Greg's onto
is not.
something. They were hungry. They just wanted to eat.
Yeah. So a songbird is not going to have much meat on it. That's not really the frame of a songbird. So that's not going to be filling, even if it sounds like it's a creature in the distance. But then you see it up close and you realize it's not just a lack of a feast, it's an empty feast. And so the analogy is that a rumor sounds like it's like deliciously enticing because it's from afar. But when you actually see the truth, you see that's an empty feast in that kind of analogy.
I mean, it was trying way too hard, and it's a little overwrought, but I get what they're saying, so I don't mind it. The Ahsoka one, what episode was that from?
I don't know. They're all
'Cause I
blurred
quit
into
after
one.
4.
Yeah.
But I can guarantee I'm gonna go with Ahsoka because I can guarantee that it was delivered like this.
yeah.
Sometimes
Mm,
even the right reasons have wrong consequences.
yeah.
I said it too fast, probably, but
Yeah,
that's
you're
how
probably too fast, yeah.
They just
Okay, so must
overcomplicated
in the
like,
air.
good intentions.
I feel like the Ahsoka line is supposed to be a play on the path to hell is paved by good intentions,
Yeah.
but they just
Yeah, I
wrote
think
that
so,
into like
yeah.
ChatGPT and, and it spat that out.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But
They fed it.
yeah, so I'll probably
Write this
go
in
with that
the
one.
way George Lucas was right in Star Wars.
Exactly.
Yeah, the first one is basically a variation on the paper tiger concept.
Mhm.
So rather than just say something like, "Oh, this room is a paper tiger," or say if you want to go for a tortured metaphor, she could say something like, "These words are but a wooden balrog," which you would kind of understand, right? And it wouldn't be
Yeah.
too bad. Wouldn't be too
Mhm.
bad. Instead, it's this long, bizarre 3-clause sentence that barely
Yeah,
makes
exactly.
sense.
Yeah.
And a rumor is like, it sounds, no, a songbird doesn't sound filling. A songbird has a very tiny sound. That's just wrong. But I'm
So
going to
by
give
the
it the
time-
Ahsoka.
Oh,
I'm going
okay.
to give it the Ahsoka because it's just bad English. Sometimes even the right reasons. No, I think what Dave Filoni meant to write was sometimes even the right actions have the wrong consequences. But
Yeah.
sometimes even the right reasons.
Mm.
Okay, no, that's just wrong. You've chosen the wrong word. So it's definitely Ahsoka. It's just wrong.
Yeah, it's both of these take existing aphorisms and sort of fuck them up. So the thing is, the Rings of Power, time you get to the end, you've lost cohesion of where it began, and also the fact that it's dispensed, casually in the middle of like a buyer's market in Khazad-dûm. It's very strange. I don't know.
Rumor also doesn't exclude the fact that it can be true. It can be
Yeah.
like the
That's
rumor can be
also-
completely true, and
That's a
so it
good
wouldn't
point.
be an empty feast at all.
I don't know. So what are we on? So Greg, what did you choose?
I'm going with Ahsoka.
Okay. Nihat?
Ahsoka as well.
Okay, John.
Ahsoka.
All right, Ahsoka it is. But Rings of Power certainly put up a fight there. I think there's also just a kind of vacuousness and meaninglessness to the Ahsoka one as well. And yeah, delivered with arms folded, maybe sort of pacing slowly around someone while you're assessing them.
100%.
That's also going on. Okay.
Walking all over the table you're going to eat on soon.
Probably delivered to Sabine.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Okay. Attack me with all your strength from the Acolyte versus something a male presenting Time Lord will never understand from Doctor Who.
Shit.
I think that one's quite easy. It's got to be Doctor Who, because if you say that you cannot understand this because you are male presenting, what you're saying is that to be male presenting is an inherent thing. Like your biology forces you to present as male, but the very wording male presenting suggests that it is something that you do by choice. So if you can present as male by choice, then there is nothing innate related to that prevents you from understanding something. It's I know that it's a bit of a word salad, but this is just what gender ideology does. It's completely illogical.
That's such a fantastic point, because you have a trans character saying that male presenting is both voluntary and also it's mutable and immutable at the same time.
Yeah, but it's perfect because it totally encapsulates transgender ideology. When you go into really, feminism doesn't make any sense. It collapses in on itself. Barbie was a great example of that. Like when you watch Barbie, you see that on screen. Okay, this ideology makes no sense. Transgenderism is that 100x. It makes no sense. It's totally illogical as an ideology.
Well, the
it's
extra
basically
variable
transgenderism in its modern form is a failed attempt to form a new religion, and it's a total disaster.
It's wild.
Well, but you've got an extra variable because as a Time Lord, he's been a male and a female iteration of himself. So in this particular iteration, he's male presenting, but he's also been female previously.
Yes.
So I don't understand how that fits in.
I was already going to go with it because of that, just because I know the backstory. But then your explanation of how this one sentence being delivered by a trans character it's even better now. Oh yeah, no, that's an easy one. That wins. It's Doctor Who all the way.
This is the trans character like lecturing him, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Doctor Who, 100%.
Okay. Yeah. Any
yeah, I feel like the Doctor Who line comes across as a form of doublethink, where we're expected to simultaneously accept two conflicting beliefs as truth. So I'll have to go with that.
Okay, yeah. In the name of empowerment, but it just sort of clumsily tumbles over itself and comes across as conceited and weird. Yeah, very strange. But shout out to Attack Me with All Your Strength. Great line.
Yeah.
Good.
No.
If I'm ever hard to love,
like
love
that could
me harder,
like
from the Crow.
Just to go back. That could have been a good line if it was delivered in a proper format. The Acolyte one.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
walking up to a random stranger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so if I'm ever hard to love, love me harder, from the Crow, or his whole life, Fred has never had to lift a finger to do anything. He's so pampered that his body hasn't even felt the need to fully mature, from Velma.
I'm going the Crow because this one feels like a repurposed. I don't know who the quote is attributed to, but the if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best, or something.
Yeah,
like
that kind of thing. Yeah,
is that Marilyn Monroe that's attributed to?
Yeah, it's one of those things which turns elegantly back on itself.
Yeah,
in a kind of symmetrical kind of way.
But it's also only said by horrible people that
FKA twigs.
Yeah, so I'm going Crow because it smacks of that. Like it's narcissism that has its own gravitational pull. Because
what about Fred's penis though? The clear implication.
It's Velma. I'm not even mad at Velma because it was funny. Like it tried so hard to lampoon the opposition, and it came back on itself.
It's a massive boomerang effect.
Yeah, I can't think of the right phrase. Got hung up on its. I want to say hung up on its own retard, but that's a line from Veep, and now I can't think of the real one. but I actually like Velma because it made itself look stupid.
Oh, I've got a
And
tortured metaphor.
it was
Velma's
great.
head. Velma's head was so far up its own arse that it ended up choking on it.
Yeah, that might as well go in there. Anyway, so Greg goes Crow. Nihat, where do you lean?
I'll have to go the Crow because in the original like comic and 1994 film, both Eric Draven and Shelley are like pure characters whose like life is extinguished in a sudden tragic event. But within the context of this new film, Shelley's basically corrupting Draven. The first thing they do when they get to an apartment is she tells him to take drugs, drink, and indulge in like debaucherous behavior. And that's when she says the line, "If I'm ever hard to love, love me harder." So I'll have to go with the Crow.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Crow too. I mean, this is like something Amber Heard would have said to Johnny Depp
That's true.
at the depths of their failed marriage. It's just awful. It stinks of domestic
That's exactly
abuse.
what it is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. All right, so that wins. John, which way would you have gone?
I think with the context, the Crow is easy to choose. So that's what I'll go with.
Yeah, because Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, they had a love diary where they would just write notes to each other. And this is something that would have gone in that diary, I think. So, yeah. All right, onwards. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died. Versus, but you're not all boys, from Peter Pan and Wendy.
God, you're not making it easy, Echo. You're not making this easy. Some of these are really tough.
See, I'm gonna go with Peter Pan though again because Madame Web is like one of those. It's like it's hard to even be mad at it because it's so comically awful that it just you can't be mad at it. It's lovable. It's so lovably harmless that it just it's mostly harmless. But the not all boys thing was one of those smacking you in the face. You know, I'm good. Neon sign. This is what we want you to know. It was disgusting. It's Peter Pan.
So John, for reference, if you're not familiar, this was from Peter Pan and Wendy.
Yeah,
and it's not just lost boys, but there's also lost girls amid the lost boys for the sake of diversity.
Well aware, covered that.
Okay. Nian, what do you think?
I haven't seen Peter Pan and Wendy, but I'm going to go with that line because as much as I thought Madame Web was an awful movie, you got a couple of drinks, some friends. That shit's so much fun to watch.
It really is.
You should try to read what Ezekiel is saying, like really saying before the ADR. Like that's a fun game.
Okay. You know, it occurs to me that this Madame Web sentence is actually quite impressive because I'm counting 6 pieces of information here.
That's true.
So think about it. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she that's amazing. See that it's one of the reasons it became a meme because it's just this gigantic amount of information in such a short space. It's like an information salad. It's great.
Yeah.
But
so person, Amazon place, mum, secondary person. She was doing research. That's 4 things. The thing that she was researching was spiders, and this incident happened.
Time.
Yeah, right before she died. Yeah, you're right.
When she was researching, it's just
6 pieces of information.
Yeah, really impressive.
That's beautiful.
But you're not all boys is it's just spiteful. It is. We know what's going on there.
Okay, we're happy with but you're not all boys, so I think we'll go with that. Just make the little thing here. Okay. So, and I think our last initial bracket before we then have to really start citing things down.
Hard already.
Sauron used me, and under his hand I was played like a harp, but to a melody not of my choosing. Versus, I'm an expert at controlling anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
This is great meat for a video, by the way, Echo. You should turn this into a video.
Yeah.
It's She-Hulk for sure.
Yep.
Really?
It has to
That's
be.
a surprise.
It's 100%. It's 100%. It could be because of who she's talking to. I mean,
yeah, I guess
that's
true.
It's like the Doctor Who line. Like they're both stupid, but the speaker and the audience makes the She-Hulk one so much worse. The Rings of Power is typical. I'm 14 and I'm trying to be deep. You know, I'm a pizza cutter. I'm all edge, but no point. But The She-Hulk one is a woman telling a man who has lived a tortured life, hunted by the government, lost everyone he's ever loved, and she says, "People can't call me, and I know more about being angry than you." And it's shockingly cringy.
Mm-hmm. All right, but I don't know. Sauron used me and under his hand. I was played like a harp, but to a melody not to my choosing. Again, it's pumping in tons of extra information. It's extending it in a kind of higgledy-piggledy way that almost makes it collapse. So I'm a Rings of Power stan on this one.
Trying to be sexual like everybody is now for some weird fucking reason.
She's also lying because trying to absolve herself from doing any kind of wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
You chose you made all these mistakes. You chose to cooperate with him. You chose to be deceived.
You chose not to
All right,
tell
yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
Where do you go in the end?
This is hard because I think the Rings of Power line is written poorly, but the She-Hulk line makes me really angry, ironically enough. So I'll go with that one.
Really? Okay. So John, I think it comes down to you. What's your call on this?
She-Hulk, because it's spiteful.
Oh.
It's feminism to the max. It's in your face,
Wow.
and it's an insult to the Hulk.
I can't believe this. I thought that the Sauron used me under a harp thing was going to be an instant classic.
I mean, it is, but you put it up against a line that is part of a looks maxing routine because it's going to build your jawline from cringing so damn hard. I mean, nothing beats that.
Wow.
I keep reading that
this
Rings
is
of
amazing.
Power line as a sexual innuendo.
I
Yeah,
think
there's supposed to be a
I think
sexual
they're going
element,
for it.
Yeah, like he went for anal even though I didn't agree to it, kind of thing.
That was the melody not of her choosing.
Yeah, that was the one. She liked it anyway, though. She-Hulk, I'm an expert at controlling anger. It's horrible because what she's doing is she's assuming that she knows this man's life. You don't know anything about him. Like she says, I do it infinitely more than you. How do you know? You don't know him that intimately. You don't know what kind of issues he has to deal with. It's just pure feminism, just assuming that men are all the same and they never have to deal with what women have to deal with. And it's like, no, people exist as individuals. They have inner worlds. Men are not some Borg mind. God, I hate it so much.
I'm shocked by this. I thought that Rings of Power would make it, but so now we're going to go through. Let's see. How do I make this make sense? So what can you guys see? Okay, yeah, let's go through. So, panic is the fool's meal. Would be best to sup on patience versus get away from her, you bitch.
It's Alien. I don't think I'm going to vote for the Rings of Power ones because it's just they're not offensive. They're just stupid. You know, it's like when a toddler tries to sound adult and you're like, "Oh, I'm not mad at you. It's adorable." And so I can't be angry at the Rings of Power because it's just so cute.
They're try hard more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually funny. I burst out laughing. It's the only thing I enjoy about this show. It's the only little glimmer of sunshine through the dark clouds. To use a tortured metaphor.
All right. Well, Nia, is it a landslide to get away from her, you bitch?
Yeah, it has to be.
Okay. All right. That's a strong contender, but I did like these Rings of Power ones. Let's put this here. Okay. I am good versus sometimes even the right reasons have the wrong consequences.
Ahsoka. I voted Ahsoka. Just wrong.
I can't
English.
believe you
I
people.
despise it so much.
I'll give you Rings of Power on this one because
I
this
go
one
with Rings of Power
was
too.
real dumb.
Okay. Nia, it's down to you, I think.
I have to give it to Ahsoka.
Yes.
It's so incompetent.
God.
The I'm good line just makes me laugh.
I think.
Can't
Who did
believe
you
this.
pick?
Also, I am
Well,
good has become a meme. Like I'm using it in my next video. I've seen it memed in other videos. It's kind of slowly but surely becoming a meme, which I like.
Yeah, all right. I'll go with Ahsoka too
Fantastic.
then.
Okay.
But yeah, okay. And then we go to the other side for other semi-finalists. Something a male presenting Time Lord will never understand versus if I'm ever hard to love, love me harder.
Doctor Who. Fucking Doctor Who. Like,
Yeah, Doctor Who.
Everything since Russell T Davies got back.
All right. Well, that's a strong contender right there. Okay. But you're not all boys. versus I'm an expert at controlling anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk. It's gonna go down.
Really?
It's gonna go down to She-Hulk and Alien. No,
I can't believe
fuck.
this.
Oh, this is a tough one here.
I don't know. The She-Hulk Doctor Who one is pretty.
I
That's
can't
tough.
believe that Peter Pan and Wendy got knocked out so quick. Okay, get away from her, you bitch, versus sometimes even the right reasons have the wrong consequences.
Alien Romulus, I think.
Alien.
Ahsoka, yeah, it's a wrong. It's just run out of steam. It's run out of steam.
Yeah.
All right, I feel you.
Oof.
Okay. Something a male presenting Time Lord will never understand versus I'm an expert at controlling anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
That's really tough.
Shit.
Well, one's an insult to the Hulk, and the other one is an insult to all men.
Yeah.
I'll probably go with Doctor Who.
You sold me. I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm going
Niat's
Dr.
right.
Who.
Niat's right.
Doctor
We
Who.
got to go with Doctor Who on this.
What did I do here? Oops. Okay, something a male presenting Time Lord will never understand is the grand finalist versus Get Away from Her, You Bitch from Alien Romulus. Okay, so Greg, give me your rationale. Those are your two finals.
Oh, it's Doctor Who, 100%.
Really?
It's just the ideology behind it. There's a lot. I could rant on that for a long time. It's the fact that there's apparently only one. It's a one-sided argument to a lot of people. They ironically ignore the opinions of women on this topic in favor of a small group of men, which I think is irony that could cure the human race of fucking anemia. It's incredible, but and the character. No, it's Doctor Who, 100%. It's insane.
All right, John, where do you land?
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who as well. Okay. Niad?
It has to be Doctor Who.
Oh my god. And Despot?
I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to say Alien Romulus because as disgusting as the classic Orwellian doublethink of Doctor Who is, it's already like transgenderism is. It's essentially lost the culture battle in Europe. I don't know if it's quite as bad in the United States, but basically that fight to a large extent has been won in many places. But this plagiarism of older movies, stealing their lines, stealing their characters, stealing the world build, stealing the setting, and then desecrating it, it is so common and it keeps happening, and it's a trope that must die. So for
I
that
have a
reason,
bad feeling about this.
I'm going to give it to Alien Romulus.
Well, I'm going with the widest span of 6 decades of Doctor Who, and then this deluge of identity politics stuff. And so it's just so egregious and so intense in its perfect intensity of identity politics. Snide, conceited, lightweight, taking a beloved iconic show and throwing this in there. And in a midst, surrounded by nothing but identity politics in the show, in that season, and that episode as well. So I think I have to, yeah. I mean, I hear what you're saying, Despot.
There's one more aspect of it that I just want to touch on. It's that Doctor Who failed. So it's almost like we're spitting on a corpse, which is, it's nice to do. You know, it's nice to spit on the corpse of a villain. But Alien Romulus was a success. They're going to make another one.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's a battle that hasn't been won. We need to fight that battle.
Well, and we're seeing it with Rings of Power right now too.
Yeah. So get away from her, you bitch.
Rings of Power looks bad. I have some new. There's some new numbers that came out today. So
what you got?
Look good.
Yeah, what you got?
Break the news.
I was gonna write this article up probably in the morning, but Samba TV posted their Rings of Power season 2 numbers for the first just for the first episode. I just shared it. Oops. I shared a link to the, actually that's not it. That's the wrong post. Hold on. Let me see if I have it. Here it is. Here's the proper post. So they shared this, their numbers here, and they said that 902,000 people watched the first episode of Rings of Power season 2 on Amazon Prime over its first 5 days. So I went back and tried to find what the numbers were for season 1, right? That Samba TV reported, right? Because Samba TV, you can't really compare them to Nielsen. They have their own metrics, but I think you can still look at their own metrics compared to their previous metrics that they shared. So they did do this like whole breakdown for 2022 streaming shows, and I asked them what the Rings of Power number was here, and because they had 1.8 million in the first 4 days, and I asked if that was the first episode or if it was a combined, because they had the 2-episode premiere, right? And they said it was just the first episode. So we're looking at a 1.8 million in 4 days has now declined to 902,000 in 5 days. So it's lost half of its viewers, according to Samba TV.
Hold on. So it lost half its viewers from the first episode to the last, or from the end of season 2 to, or the end of season 1 to the start of season 2?
So this is just comparing season 1, episode 1 to season 2, episode 1.
Right. So they've
it went from
only half tuned in. Man, I reckon of those half, how many are going to still be there at the end?
Well, we had the report from the Hollywood Reporter that was 63% tuned out from season 1 that watched the first part of the first episode, like didn't finish.
Yeah, and that doesn't shock me. I mean, that first episode dragged on. Like I said, it was 22 minutes of Sauron's backstory, and then
Sauron is a slinky
walking through the desert,
spaghetti slinky, and moving around on the mountain.
Yeah, I can fully understand how people wouldn't even make it through episode 1. Like I said, I had to try multiple times, and I knew I was going to get paid to watch it, and I still couldn't sit through it to write a script. It's my fucking job, and I couldn't do it. A casual viewer, why would they? And then after the first episode, I can't see more than half of those 900,000 trying the second. And it's just the fall off is going to be insane.
Yeah, and the second episode for me was the worst. That was just torture. I can see very few making it through that first 3-episode arc.
Yeah.
So from the first episode of the first season to the end, there was a 37% drop off in audience, and so that's just continuing.
I think it was 37% completion rate.
Yeah.
37 completion. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah. That's crazy. And so 900,000 viewers. God, watch the first episode. Like some of like a Critical Drinker video gets more views than that. That's amazing. 900,000.
So I will say Samba's like these numbers here. It's hard to know how accurate they are. I would wager that the number is probably a little bit higher, especially if you compare it to things on cable. I would probably say it's probably a lot more than that. But the fact that what I find interesting about these numbers is that you have their season 1 numbers and a 50% decline. I think that is more interesting to me rather than their hard number here that they use.
I have a quick question for the panel. I'd just like to get your guys' thoughts on this, because I have a feeling that the big fantasy boom that started with Game of Thrones is kind of on the way out now, because I'm checked out of House of the Dragon. I'm checked out of it. I thought the season 2 ended abysmally. It started very well. It was very promising. It got progressively working, and the last episode was dreadful. So I'm done. I'm no longer invested. I don't care about House of the Dragon. Rings of Power is just god awful, and all the other shows are just the same boring DEI, postmodern, morally grey shit, and they all look like each other. And I sort of get the sense that people are kind of just tuned out and done with fantasy, and that it's played out now. It's a bit like the superhero movie of TV. People are just done with it. What are your thoughts? Do you think there's still a bit of juice left to be squeezed from the superhero lemon, or is it pretty much done? Or sorry, not superhero, the fantasy lemon.
I mean,
I agree with you. I think go ahead, Greg.
No.
Well, I agree. Everything looks interchangeable. It all has the same gloss and sheen to it. It's the same quests. Wheel of Time,
The Witcher,
all those other shows. Yeah, The Witcher.
Yeah.
It all just, there's too much of it. It all looks the same. The DEI stuff, where all the casts look like metropolitan Los Angeles, irrespective of what region you're in, what climate you're in. There's no sense of adventure. There's no particular sense of quest. It all seems very small now. Like there's not much happening in these shows. So you're right. I think it is on the way out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's on the way out if it continues.
Go on, Greg.
It's on the way out if they keep going the way that they are. And you're absolutely right. It's this postmodernist. We're going to view everything through our current lens. We're not going to actually try to figure out what they were trying to say in these particular fantasies. We're just going to say what we want to say, but we're going to, wear this fantasy title like a skin suit. So I don't see that changing. And so I would agree that it is on the way out. But if somebody made a well-known fantasy series and just stuck to the general themes, it doesn't need to be a shot-for-shot remake. If they just kind of stuck to the general idea, like here's a story about good versus evil instead of orcs have babies and they want to be good fathers, I think it would explode. But no, I don't see it going that direction.
I tend to agree with Greg here. I don't think that the problem is with the genre of fantasy in itself, but more so the modern interpretation, which has sort of lost the timeless quality of Tolkien and George R.R. Martin's original vision. And the same thing sort of happened with superhero movies. It wasn't so much superhero movie fatigue that we're experiencing insofar as it was just bad storytelling fatigue. Which inadvertently will destroy the genre.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because like fantasy it transcends our daily lives. That's why it is so popular. That is the whole fucking point. So to take fantasy and say let's reflect modern American values in fantasy is just the absolute antithesis of what fantasy authors do. And then, like you said, Echo, like, they make everything look like downtown LA. So they take away, that's why everything feels very small. That is why fantasy works, because everywhere you go, people look different. They have different customs. That is why fantasy worlds are huge, because you can explore different customs and you start to look at things being kind of strange. Brandon Sanderson does the Stormlight series. And in his world, the religion, the women cover their left hand. Their left hand is very sacred. And you don't see their left hand. That's, no, you can't. And he kind of is, he's not really coming out and being super cheeky with it, but he's sort of, you get the impression of like, wow, some things are just arbitrary. Like we say this is bad, like, shoulders. We don't want to show shoulders. And so he's sort of poking fun of that, or he's just making up something new. And that's the kind of stuff that you get to play with when you do fantasy. But modern authors refuse, or modern show writers refuse to do any of that. And so everything is American Hollywood left-wing politics and the way that they want to view things. It's ridiculous.
And the banter is very lightweight. The way that they talk to each other, it's like a lightweight banter that they have, and the guys are constantly chivied and joshed around, and it just it doesn't feel like fantasy. It just feels like people dressed up.
Sorry, what were you saying, John?
Yeah, I don't think that the fantasy genre is dead. I think you can look at video games. You could see that some of the most popular video games are fantasy games. People still want to still like that fantasy genre. You can look at Elden Ring and the massive success it had when it came out, and then obviously with the DLC, people are still playing that right now. I think I'm looking at the Steam DB numbers. It's number 6. I think it's number 16 for current concurrent players live. Baldur's Gate 3 is actually number 8. Obviously, there's some DEI crap in that game, but still is in that kind of fantasy genre. And then I would even argue Black Myth Wukong is clearly a fantasy story as well, and it's number 4 right now with over 154,000 people playing right now. So I don't think that the fantasy genre in itself is dead. There's still a lot of people that are interested in it. They're just not interested in these kind of DEI messes that we see that Amazon has produced with Wheel of Time, with Rings of Power, etc. I think there's actually like a lot of hype and excitement for something like Warhammer. With Henry Cavill attached to it. I think there is a lot of interest in that, obviously, even despite all the issues that Games Workshop has had with their female custodies and all the other stuff. And then even obviously with Wheel of Time and all the, but I do think that there is still significant interest in the fantasy genre because it's fantasy, right? You can kind of do all kinds of different things with that.
Oh yeah. John brings up a good point that it's very popular in games, and it'll be very interesting to see. John, when does Dragon Age come out? Is that late November, October? Is it Halloween?
November, October. Yeah, it's around there.
I thought it was Halloween. Anyway, later this year, Dragon Age 4 is coming out, and that was a big, dark fantasy. It was very popular. That's why it got popular. And this new one that's coming out this year looks very Fortnite inspired. Yeah. It's very bright, colored, very purple. Yes, it looks disgusting. So I'm interested to see how that 31st.
One, you're right.
I want to see how that one sells, because that would be a great metric, because we have all these very popular games. I would even argue like Baldur's Gate. Yeah, it's got a lot of maybe DEI stuff, but I think Baldur's Gate just tried to cover as much as possible. It was a role playing sandbox. So I think they did put some stuff in there, but they also put, some other ways. So I like that one, but I'm interested to see how Dragon Age goes, because it is the Amazoning, it is the Netflixing of fantasy video games, and I hope it fails for that reason, but we'll see.
I do too. You used to literally be a warden fighting Darkspawn.
Yeah. Yeah, and now you're. It's
Well,
gross.
after the huge hits, Deadpool and Wolverine and Inside Out, so a huge surge towards the end of the summer. But overall, domestic revenue falls 10%. So it could have been far worse if it hadn't been for those two huge, massive hits. So it seems on the back of those two things that Hollywood is roaring back. Plus, what is it? Ride or Die, whatever it was. So, but if you look at the overall picture, according to the Hollywood Reporter, domestic revenue falls by 10% for the year. So not as rosy as we might have been led to believe, John.
For movies, I think they're saying here that it's actually better than what they thought it was going to be. They're saying it was down almost 30%. And then obviously Bad Boys came out, and then you had Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah, I mean, the film industry is definitely struggling. They spend way too much money on a lot of these movies for lack of return. We're seeing that in the video games too. Obviously, Concord being the latest example, but you can look at Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League as well. Spend years developing these things and end up being dated by the time that they come out. So they need to fix that. They need to figure that out. They need to get back to kind of timeless themes. They need to get back to good versus evil. They need to stop with the postmodern liberalism garbage that has been infesting movies, television, video games, etc. Get back to kind of those winning formulas, and they've always had those winning formulas. You can look throughout Hollywood. You can look at the westerns, then you can look at the kind of one of my favorite genres is the action films of the 90s with Nicolas Cage and like Con Air and The Rock. Those are stories of heroes fighting villains, right? And there's clearly things that they have to do to stop the villain, and that's kind of what they need to get back to, and just kind of tell those compelling stories. Die Hard, obviously, Terminator's in there. So
yes, but John, you don't understand like what is a hero and what is a villain now. Like, isn't that more interesting?
Well, the villain is the hero, and the hero is the villain. So
I don't know, John. It's a matter of perspective. You see what you might consider a hero, I might consider evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, was Jesus a good guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. The tyranny of relativism.
If you think Anakin was a good guy, you don't care about the people in the Death Star, and that's he killed millions and millions of people in the Death Star. It's ridiculous.
True.
Anakin was a good guy until he sold his soul and became Vader.
Yeah, isn't the real point of Con Air that the American incarceration system has become too corporatized? And
well, it's a film about rebellion. It's essentially Star Wars of the 90s, and the justice system is the Empire, and the criminals the Rebel Alliance. That's how I read it. Do you know what I mean? I'm actually writing an article for the Mary Sue right now about that specific topic.
So where do the Mexican drug dealers fit into this as they get their plane blown up, trying to separate themselves?
They're
from
oppressed. They're an oppressed minority, so they're just they're doing what they have to do to support their community.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I just can't get over Nick Cage's accent. That movie's all about his accent for me.
I love his accent in that. He's so good. He's so ripped. It's one of my favorite Cage performances. He's so physical in it.
Quick question for you guys on the panel, though. Does it worry you? Are you optimistic to see basically kind of a return to form? Like the movies that did well this year were the ones that just gave the audience what they wanted. More Inside Out, more Deadpool, Wolverine, Twisters did really well. A lot of the ones that really stand out were very kind of a return to form of basic storytelling. And I don't mean that in a bad way, just like not this, we want to be clever all the goddamn time, just good old fashioned storytelling. They did really well. Does that make you excited, or does it worry you that everything that worked this year was a sequel or a reboot in some way?
Oh, definitely the fact it was a sequel or reboot. I mean, if one of those two films had been a bomb, then that would have been the tipping of Hollywood into like a semi-crisis. It would have been, domestic revenue falls, like 15% or something like that. And there would have been wailing and gnashing of teeth and renting of garments. So it's pretty much on a knife edge. I don't know why Inside Out 2 was such a big thing. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, just remakes. So we haven't had like a big. I guess Barbie was sort of semi-original. At least they made an effort.
That's
It's
true.
Barbie, though. It's based off of a 1960s doll that's been around for 80 years now, right?
Hmm.
I'm interested to see how many toy
I
movies
cannot-
actually make it to screen because of Barbie.
The Polly Pocket movie. Can't
Oh
wait.
God,
Hell yeah.
that is going to crater. There's no way that can succeed.
What's
No, I
Polly
think that's
Pocket?
like it's
Probably
a-
because in
uh,
go
girls-
ahead.
It's a girl's toy that you like just pop up and there's like little dolls,
Little miniature dollhouses.
little miniature dollhouses.
Yeah,
in
I
a
mean,
They
plastic
would usually
container.
fold up and look like
We
something
can
else from the outside.
see the summer box office for next year here.
It's weird.
What do you
This is
reckon,
a
lads?
weird bunch of films. God, it's
Yeah.
strange. Well, Captain America, I don't know what's going to go on there.
That
looks
one
painful.
could turn out okay if they. It's never going to make money because it's going to cost $400 million right now. But if they drop
rewrote the
what
whole
it
thing.
seems like they were going to do with all of the continued, race commentary and all that, and if they just go with like White House down, Olympus has fallen, but Captain America, I think it'll do fine. It'll never make profit because it needs $800-900 million.
Same with, I mean, does Snow White bomb or does it just flop? Because it's obviously not going to make money. They've spent probably $400 million on that mess.
I think it's a
Mm.
bomb.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
it's a
it's a
bomb.
bomb.
It was a
Yeah,
bomb.
I also think
before- I was going to say it was a bomb before they spent like damn near $500 million on it, and now that they have, and they've got Rachel Zegler, sort of promoting
Yeah.
it ineffectively. Yeah, it's definitely going to fail.
Yeah,
Gee,
most definitely
Superman
bomb.
could be huge or it could be a bomb. I just don't
It's
know.
a bizarre one. Like, well, we don't
Yeah.
we don't. There's no point in predicting any of this because we haven't seen anything. It's just in terms of what the audiences want to see. But Echo,
Yeah.
you're right. Like Superman, God knows what could happen with that.
I just
It
don't know
could-
if the audience is really fired up or interested in Superman right now. Just doesn't
Exactly.
feel. It's a weird one.
It should be.
And-
It should have
and-
been a Batman film. They
Sorry?
should have
Yeah.
led with Batman. They should have led with Batman instead of Superman. Batman is DC's biggest hero, not Superman. Superman is not the biggest DC hero. He
Are we
just
going to
isn't.
see? Are we going to see a Furiosa effect with Ballerina? So we had not Mad Max, a Furiosa saga. Are we going to get the same thing here? Not John Wick, a ballerina saga? Or are people going to
Yeah.
not
I think the fact
show
that
up
it
for
didn't
that
come out
reason?
this year is going to hurt it. Like, I think it would have done better. It was supposed to come out this spring, and it would have done much better this spring, I think.
I think they reshot that one too and rewrote it.
I think that's
Mission
too far. It's too far away.
Mission
It's not 9
Impossible
years,
8.
but it's too far away.
Yeah. Mission Impossible 8 is going to be a huge. It's going to be really sluggish at the box office. It's not going to bomb. It's just going to be underperform.
I think it's going to lose money. I think
Yeah.
the last one was not good. It just wasn't.
I think the only one of these I think Zootopia 2 is probably going to take. I could see that taking over Inside Out 2 as the highest grossing animated film.
Really?
Like, I could see
Wow.
that making 1.5, 1.6.
Really?
That's a guaranteed success. I mean,
It's
even
Zootopia.
Garfield.
but I'm wondering just how big it's going to be. Over $1 billion, I think,
Really?
guaranteed.
I mean, look, where's its competition? Because look, where are the family movies in this? I don't see any except for SpongeBob. That'll be big. That's going to be big.
Yeah.
Helio,
SpongeBob's going to do.
the boy with the
SpongeBob's
eye
going to be
patch.
huge. That's going to make a ton of money. So is Zootopia 2 because there's no competition for them. If you look here, and this summer, all the kids movies, all the family movies, Inside Out 2, even Garfield made money, and Garfield was
That's true.
garbage.
Yeah.
Mm.
I bet SpongeBob doesn't cost but 15-20 million to make. It can't cost that
Yeah,
much.
I mean that thing is going to do huge numbers.
Yeah.
The
Be
only
massively
other
profitable.
animated film I see on there is Elio, and I think that's a Pixar.
I don't see that doing well. That looks like
No, that's
yeah,
gonna
I don't.
bomb.
That's a bomb.
What,
There's no way Blade is coming out next year. I don't believe that.
no.
I just don't
No.
believe Blade's coming out.
I feel
That
like
movie
that's
is never
a-
happening.
I think that Michael movie is going to surprise people. The Michael Jackson movie at the end there, at the bottom. I think that might be a surprise.
I'm interested in How to Train Your Dragon. I feel like they're a little late to the live action remake party, and I
There's no
don't see
DI
that.
casting.
Yeah, I don't see that going well. I think the dragon's going to look hideous. I can see them screwing that up, and it's just going to be so much CGI, and it's going to be a lot of the actors trying to touch things that aren't there, and it's going to look bad. I don't intend to see that one. I think the Minecraft movie is going to make a shitload of money.
Yeah, I
Thinking
think that
about
will.
Do we all think Minecraft's going to do well?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that'll be huge.
Got
Yeah.
to.
So-
Yeah, it'll be a big family movie. Like all the kids want to see it, and then the parents.
I don't know if my
Yeah.
sons know that it exists, but once they find out that it exists, we're gonna have to go. Like, there's no.
What iteration of
like-
Karate Kid is this? Like, who's the Karate Kid being taught by which mentor? I don't even know anymore.
I think I read about this. So this is God. What's his
Spin-off,
name?
right? The show.
The guy who played the Karate Kid. It's not a spinoff. What's
Oh,
the
it's
guy who
by
plays the
it's by
Karate
him
Kid?
though. It's by Daniel, the guy who plays Daniel.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
really?
in the TV show.
So
But I
it
heard that Jackie
stars- yeah,
Chan was also going to be in it, right?
Ralph
Mm.
Macchio, I think, is
Yep,
in
that's
it,
it,
but
yeah.
it's not canonically connected to
The
Cobra
Netflix
Kai,
show.
and
Right.
I think maybe
Okay.
it retcons everything after Karate Kid 1, something like that.
Mm.
I might have
Mm.
read that, but they could have changed it. I don't know.
God, how old is Jackie
I think
Chan?
Avatar-
now?
He was in a
stuff.
remake. He was in a Karate Kid remake with Jaden Smith when they were trying to make Jaden Smith a thing.
Hmm.
And
Jackie
Jackie Chan
Chan
was
is
very good in
70.
it. Yeah, Jaden Smith was Jaden Smith.
Oh, that was horrific.
I
There's another
wondering-
Saw film? God, they can't stretch that thing out anymore.
Saw
Well, they have to
10
do it
made
in
money, man. Saw 10.
I
And Saw
guess.
10's a pretty good movie. I like Saw
Horror
10.
films. Horror films are usually good money makers because they're
They
cheap
keep
to
going,
make,
exactly.
and the returns are usually really good because the horror audience shows up.
But what's weird
Yeah,
to
Saw,
me
listen to
is-
this for Saw 10. Saw 10's budget was $13 million.
Really,
Its box
that's
office
amazing.
was $112 million.
Wow, that's
So
amazing.
that's where they keep making these.
That's
Um,
why
But that's
the
with
Blumhouse
that
model
cool
is-
main act. Yeah, that's with that cool main actor dude though. That's his last outing. He's not coming back to these. So this will just be a bunch of
Yeah.
nobodies. But you're right, it'll still make money.
I wonder how Scary
I mean-
Movie 6 is going to go, because I feel like the goofy parodies are not
So
playing as
dated.
much as they used to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because they're
not.
extremely dated, but Scary Movie might, because it's going to be super budget. It's going to be really low budget, because that's its nature. It might scrape a profit just because it is so low budget. So it's
Yeah.
worthwhile for them to make it just on
Why
brand
make a
recognition.
parody? You can't make it. How do you parody Ahsoka? It's already a parody.
Right.
or the Acolyte. It's already a parody of Star Wars.
Mm.
I'll tell you what, I actually am kind of interested. I'm interested in The Accountant too, because I did like that one. I'm a sucker for a good old vigilante action film that was Ben Affleck. I liked that one a lot. And I'm not excited for Now You See Me 3, but I'm morbidly curious as to how in the hell they can go anywhere with that. Have you guys seen those? The first two Now You See Me's?
I thought they
No.
were okay. Yeah.
I liked the first one, and then the second one they were like actually doing magic or something. Like they jumped the shark immediately in the second movie, and I'm wondering where the hell the third one could go.
On the topic of horror movies doing well, I think that Five Nights at Freddy's is going to do well because the first one only cost 20 million and made 300. We're going to see that doing the same. Avatar's also going to be empty and vacuous, but it will probably make like 1.9 billion. or
That's
something
really
retarded.
more a 2026 movie because that's going to come out right at the end of the year. So
Okay.
I
The
found
only
one
thing
I
I
didn't
Another
wa-
Jurassic- There's another Jurassic World. Are they making them virtually every year now? It's just
Yeah.
it's
Well,
nonstop.
This
They
new one
keep-
looks awful. It's got Scarlett Johansson. It sounds terrible.
Mm.
And
What's
Mahershala
the numeral
Ali.
behind that one?
what about Fantastic Four? Does anybody have that? Could definitely
Gee.
flop.
Yeah,
I think it's going
could.
to. I think that
I think
movie
flop,
series
yeah.
is cursed.
I think that whole first row is going to be really suffering.
Well, I
But
mean, that's
now
all superhero
overlooking-
content.
Yeah.
Looking over this again, I think there are some huge hitters here. I think Minecraft
Yeah,
could be a billion.
if I were to
think,
guess, I would say the box office next year is going to be bigger,
yeah.
slightly
I'm
than
going-
this year.
so-
just
So
looking
billion
at it.
plus. I'm thinking Minecraft. I'm thinking Jurassic World. I'm thinking the Zootopia. So that's 3.
You think
Avatar
Jurassic's going to hit 1
4.
billion?
I
Avatar,
think
obviously,
those things. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think
each
there's
one
4 or
has.
5.
I
Yeah,
could see
there's maybe-
SpongeBob doing 1 billion. I could.
Yeah,
I could see.
yeah.
I think there's $4 or $5 billion movies here.
Yeah.
I could see SpongeBob being like a big cult, not like it's not a duo, so it's not like a Barbenheimer. I could see SpongeBob being like a big meme, and it just kind of creates its own goofy momentum of people wanting to go see it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what social, societal cachet Michael Jackson still has, because it's been a while since he kicked.
It
the bucket.
has. I mean, it's not really a Gen Z thing, is it?
Hmm.
Like they
Yeah,
don't
not
even.
really.
I wouldn't be surprised if. I mean, they would have heard his name, but they wouldn't be able to name one of his songs.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, that's the slate. So interesting. There'll be some ups and downs, but I think there's some big heavy hitters there. So
Yeah.
that will be interesting.
I want to know what Kendrick Lamar and the South Park guys are going to do.
So, yeah, good point. So just a couple of notes, socio-culturally. The AfD, the like literally openly far right, almost extremist right in Germany's elections in the regions of Thuringia and Saxony. And they won one of them and came a close second in the other. So this is open, not quite alt-right, but certainly unabashedly far right in Germany, out in the open, winning massive municipal and regional elections. So I didn't think I would see this, at least not right now. And then you combine this with France, where in their first round they had that kind of primal scream of voting for the Marine Le Pen before the second round kind of neutered that. But and then you add Hungary to the mix. It's very interesting to watch this stuff, and I think immigration is at the heart of all of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic that right-wing parties are gaining momentum in places like Germany. In Sweden, they were able to form a government, and they actually got the immigration numbers down to the point where now they have net emigration. I wish, for that reason, that there was proportional representation in the UK, because I think the UK is pretty much doomed, if I'm being honest. I don't see it being able to get away from the sort of mass immigration paradigm. And it's almost... there was a time in the UK where if you had said, I'm opposed to open borders and immigration, you would immediately have been shouted down as a racist. We're past that. Like, you can have a debate about it now, but not like you can in, say, Germany or Sweden. France, I actually lived in France for a year, and I lived in Lyon, and there was some bother due to immigration, but the numbers were nothing like because I lived there in 2013 to 2014, almost 10 years ago. The numbers were nothing like what they are now back then, and it was still a lovely city, and you could have a nice life there. But apparently now, I talk to my friends that are in Lyon, and they say you can't go out at night. I had a friend who was attacked by a guy with a knife, and he didn't get stabbed. He managed to get away from him. And then I had another friend who was attacked by an African migrant, although that wasn't in Lyon, that was in a different place. And I've read other stories coming out of Lyon, written by women in particular, who say that the city has just become unlivable. And you cannot, and that this is before you go into things like healthcare, housing. It's way beyond race or culture. It's just a quality of life thing now. Like, people just cannot get on, not care about politics and get on with their wee lives, because the flood of immigration is just threatening every aspect of their quality of life, from their housing to their healthcare to the job market and just basic safety, like not even being able to walk your own streets. So this is why you see the rise of right-wing parties in Germany and Sweden and France and the UK. The UK has shifted right, actually. Labour only got in on 20% of the vote. So that's what's happening. And like I say, I'm very pessimistic for the UK, but I think Germany might be able to pull themselves out of the mass immigration disaster.
I think that governments of all stripes, I think, it was so tempting to just that addiction of using immigration as a way to spur economic growth across the ideological spectrum. It just became too irresistible to them. And so they would just keep making those infusions because it would help their electoral prospects by trying to stimulate the economy through migration as a kind of substitute for lack of population growth or economic stagnation. And so that, it caused a dilemma. And you see this stuff happening across the Scandinavian countries as well, all sorts of social problems. So you get a point where you go from diversity being enlivening to a point where you've just got to talk about proportionality. And I think even in Germany, they're starting to have that discussion now. So I don't know, interesting to see where it all goes.
If you want to see what a country that functions quite well with low levels of immigration, like where I live, South Korea, it has a low level of immigration. If you walk past a construction site, you are likely to see foreign workers. I was walking past one the other day. I saw a Muslim guy, probably from Kazakhstan or something, or God knows where, praying next to the construction site. And that's fine. Like those low levels of immigration, whereby you're absorbing people who can actually come in and work, and it forms probably less than 5% of the population. And I think the max is like probably over at 100 now, South Korea. But it functions. It's a functioning immigration system, and it's like what we have in the West, which is just completely out of control, and there's no control at all, and you're not necessarily bringing people in who can work. You're literally importing vast numbers of people and putting them on welfare.
Yeah. So, interesting to keep an eye on, because definitely it's something I would never have imagined seeing in Germany. But I guess it's probably healthy for democracy, in some senses. And the other little thing here, Greg, I've never seen this before. You got 7 battleground states. And usually in an election, it'll be like, one of them will be 3 or 4 points ahead for one candidate, and another one will be 3 or 4 points ahead for another. Practically all of these are within like 0.2 or 0.3% between the candidates. I've never seen such exacting fine margins before.
No, and not in such a large amount of states.
It's like whack-a-mole. You'll be one state will suddenly seem to be shifting one way, and then another state which seemed like it was balanced will shift another way. I've never seen such frothing around in an electorate before.
I'm very interested to see how this election shakes out, and I think that if any year was a year that I didn't trust, I mean, I never really trust the polls 100%. I think 2016 showed that there's some flaws that need to be worked out there. But this year, I don't know that I trust any of these at all, because, I mean, we just had this enormous shift. You've got one candidate who now is suddenly wildly popular with people that I don't think knew who she was in January 2020, because if they did, they didn't vote for her. She didn't have 2 primary votes to rub together. So I'm interested to see where all of this passion ends up going. Like, what is it actually going to translate to votes at the ballot box? And are these going to be as battleground as they seem? But it is very interesting to see so many of them so close. I agree with you. That's fun to watch.
A couple of things I think are interesting that like I watched the Democratic National Convention, and they were showing Tim Walz, parading him as like relatable, strong masculinity. But they missed what I thought they missed is the idea that young men who don't vote Democrat anymore, or at least in plunging numbers, they don't want to see someone who they could aspire to be late in life, or someone who could be a good role model for them. They're more interested in their own identity formulation as young men. And there was nothing really to appeal to them in that sense. And the other disconnect I think they have is they're always going on with the line that, I'm in it for you. Donald Trump is only just in it for himself. And I think what the disconnect they missed there strategically is there are a lot of people who do think that Donald Trump's just an asshole, but he's like an avatar for the idea of trickle-down economics itself. Like the 1980s idea was yuppies and their suspenders and accoutrements are assholes, but they're generating the money that's going to trickle down to us. So through them, I can prosper and I can thrive in my own circumstances. So I don't think that the left has really figured that out about the idea of, yes, he's only in it for himself, but it's through that engine of greed and avarice that creates the prosperity. That's the thing from their perspective that they don't see. So I think there's a disconnect there.
Well, you're absolutely correct. Well, that's just something that like socialist-minded people don't seem to really get. I think that's the big disconnect that we don't agree on. Is we all agree that people are selfish, but I agree my opinion is that's why capitalism is the #1 system, because people are selfish. I know they are. They're predictably selfish, and predictability is the #1 thing that you want in an economy and any kind of structure. You want people to act the same way all the time, and people are predictably self-serving. That's why capitalism is beautiful, and that's why communism or socialism or any of these types of systems just don't work, because people are self-interested. They say they want to share, but they don't really want to share. But I'm interested to see where they go with the whole personality thing, because you're right. They want to make Trump out to be a bad guy. And I think that you're very correct that a lot of his supporters know that. I didn't vote for him last time. I don't know that I'm going to vote for him this time. I know that he's an ass. I don't like him as a person. I don't even know that I'd want to have a beer with the guy. But if we're talking policies, I think he's got all right policies. I liked the economy when he was president because he was predictable. I knew what he was going to do. So that's fine. And the other issue they're going to run into is that if they want to make it a personality game, then people are going to start to point to Kamala's previous job as a prosecutor putting black people away for drug crimes. That was her career-making move in California. So if they want to bring up, who's a nicer person or who's looking out for you or whatever, they're going to lose on that one too. I think it's going to be a landslide. I don't see Kamala getting a lot of votes. I don't think that there's any angle. They can't go with experience. She doesn't have experience. They can't go with personality. She doesn't have personality. They can't go with she's looking out for you because she has a history of not looking out for poor people, who are convicted of drug crimes. It's no matter what way they slice it, I don't see them actually getting the votes. The polls people might say they're going to vote for her, but I don't see it happening.
I don't know. I mean, I try to analyze this at a super micro level. I could even have one of those like bluish marble-like bowling balls that What's-Her-Face has in Rings of Power, and I still wouldn't be able to figure it out. It's too complex. John, who's going to win Pennsylvania and therefore the election?
Kamala Harris is going to win.
You're thinking Harris is going to win?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm thinking ground game. I think the Democrats are going to have a slightly better, more effective and efficient ground game. They got more field officers. They got the women's.
We have a lot more ballots.
Yeah, so I think I fucking don't know. This is so strange. I've never seen anything like it. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
What an election!
Think about this. Trump was almost assassinated. What, a month ago? No one's talking about it.
Yeah, memory hold.
Yeah,
who would have thought? Bloody hell. Anyway, that's the situation. Greg and Despot, I did mention the idea of, did you have any Star Wars pitches? Or did you not get that memo?
I didn't see that one.
I didn't get that.
Oh, fuck it then. We'll forget it.
We'll do it next time.
All right.
Next
So on
time.
this, I've got some super chats to go through, so I'll just go through these here, and we've got M8566. Echo, you need to come up with an official name for the stream, or we're going to call it the Echo Chamber. Stop us. Well, people have been threatening that for months, so I'll just let it happen organically. I don't know why I'm still resistant to that. Doesn't make any sense to me. Some weird psychological autistic problem I have. Wild Warlock, $5. Game of Thrones Series 8, Season 8? Had me shouting at the TV, but helped me get over FOMO for shows. Wait till a full season release before watching. You guys can suffer for me. Well, that's what we do. That's the sacrifices we make. Season 8, as we said last time, and not only was a terrible season, but it also retroactively devalued all the seasons that had come prior. And we'll never forgive
I can't
them for
rewatch it for that reason. Like, if I can't go back and rewatch seasons 1 to 4 of Game of Thrones, which are excellent, because I know this is going nowhere. I know this is all going to be destroyed. It's kind of sickening.
Yeah, there's no benefit of the doubt. Coffee Breathman for $5. Cryptically, just says nothing. He leaves it for us. And I appreciate that too. And we've got Shurishman 343 for another $5. What's up, peeps? Despot, go talk to EFAP about House of the Dragon. They need some pushback from someone who isn't just whining about Harrenhal. Love these streams.
As in, do EFAP think that it's a great show?
I think they must, but
minus Harrenhal, because Harrenhal was dreadful. The pacing was bad. Allowing peasants to ride around on dragons, which are apparently local to specific areas, was dumb. And the decisions being made by Alicent near the end, whereby she agrees to have her own son murdered, like, it's just piss. Like, that's just bad. The show over, and the final episode was such a damn squib. It was just like they kind of threw up their hands and said, "Well, season's over, I guess."
Yeah.
Well, it ended with a montage of like, this is what this person's doing. Remember this guy? He's in prison now. So.
Oh, look, the best character, Otto Hightower, is in a carriage with the king, and he's being trailed away. And I don't give a shit.
Our exciting crescendo was just wedge everyone into their starting positions.
The other thing as well. The first season, I was patient, right? I was like, relax, guys. They need to build the world. They need to build the characters and build the setting before the war. Start of season 2, very slow. Relax, guys. Let them build it. And 2 fucking seasons of television, we got one okay battle.
Yeah.
One of my major criticisms for Rings of Power was that in the first season, there was one battle, some mud heap skirmish battle. It was awful. And in 2 seasons of House of the Dragon, we've had 1 minor battle. That's just unacceptable. This is just poor. I'm done with the show. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm out.
Yeah, been 3 episodes and I haven't seen an army yet. That's not Tolkien. Come on. Anyway, so that's essentially it for today's then team. Just remains me for the cultural juggernaut that is Greg Owen to tell us, like, first of all, how are you basking in the endless flow of likes and attention and views that you're getting, and what can we expect from you next?
I'm just loving it, and I spend a lot of time staring at myself in the mirror with no clothes on now, and looking at my subscriber count at the same time. That's a new habit. Next,
you know that when you have a really cool video that does connect, and you can just look at you just put the subscriber count on just the page and just see it like slowly turning around. That's lovely. I really love that.
I absolutely love it. I think if this continues, my goal for the year, I really want to get 1 million views in 1 month. I think I've peaked at like 500 or 600 before. If I keep going with this momentum, I might be able to get it in the next 28 days. We'll see. That's a goal that I wanted. But later this week, I've got a video coming out just celebrating the downfall of Star Wars Outlaws and the cancellation of Acolyte, and just also Concord, just shitty products getting canceled, and I'm happy about it, and I'm unashamedly happy that these things are failing. And next week, I will be on the channel 30 NSG Wednesday night. I'm going to be talking about video games over there, so that's what I'll be doing next week.
All right, Master Nyat, you probably finished your toast, which is glistening with butter and Vegemite. And
I have.
So what can the team expect from you in the coming
so I'm going to be jumping on another podcast, Diabolical Souls Presents, breaking down a couple episodes of Invincible in 30 minutes. I'm going to be working on a Terminator Zero video and a Beetlejuice 2 video at the end of the week. Also jumping on a few other podcasts at the end of the week before I head off to the US next week.
Oh, exciting. All right. Despot, you like to hit us with one gigantic epic video that shakes the cultural foundations, and then you sort of go subdued and disappear off trail, off grid.
Yeah,
for a month or two. So what can we expect?
I'm approaching the final lap of my Acolyte video. I'm almost there. I should have it out in a week or so, and then I've got a very special project coming after that.
Ooh,
and this Saturday, it's a long. I mean, the Acolyte video. Maybe I've sort of missed the bus on this, but I don't care because I go for quality, not bandwagoning. And then this Saturday, I'm going to be doing a stream about Fight Club with Dark R. So,
cool.
It'll be pretty fun. I'll post a link to that on my channel.
Nice.
Will we be talking about Chick Fight and the gender swap Fight Club that is coming out?
Hold on, wait. Is there a gender swap Fight Club?
No, that's been debunked.
Yeah,
that's been debunked.
Oh, well, no, there's a movie
disappointed.
called Chick Fight that came out in like 2020.
Right.
Which is basically a female.
I would love to see that. I want to see Fight Club updated for a modern audience.
It'd probably be just like that clip that Gundam likes to use of those women in the wilderness just screaming at the earth.
Instead of fighting, it's just going to have microaggressions.
Yeah. Well, if anyone cares, I just for my own amusement and for the lols made a video where it's the little orc family, and I do like an 8-minute long backstory.
It's
exploring.
touching.
Yeah, I thought so. And I think I'm going to do a video. It's probably going to be AI Tolkien talking about the Rings of Power, so that should be fun. And I'm probably going to do a video talking about the why we have villains the way they are. That'll take a while to do. But
for your AI Tolkien video, you should feed it his commentary on the movie script that he tore apart. That's in his letters.
That's a good idea. Yeah. It's hard to get his voice though, because he spins. It's that very British thing where half of what he's saying is just a kind of patchy gobbledygook. And with the York, then it's really felt that it's one rather feels that it's that kind of speech. So I don't think the AI is going to cope with it all that well. But today's MVP, John Trent, editor at large of that Park Place. So everyone should go check that out and make it part of your regular media diet. So thanks for coming on today, sir.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, so I usually put up 4 to 6 articles a day on thatparkplace.com, Monday through Friday and Saturday for the most part as well. And then I obviously have, yeah, I figured out a system. I use a lot of my own words in articles from that I previously wrote to help. Like, I mean, you're just repeating like the same thing over again, right? So to add depth, so I use my own words. Anyways, but I also have the Trent Report, which is my YouTube channel. We started it in November, and so we just went over 8,000 subscribers. So I cover a lot of the articles there, provide a little bit more analysis and breaking news on that channel. And then outside of movies, television, video games, I have a stock car racing channel.
Awesome.
Just search my name, and it's been a bit since I've done anything over there, but I try and cover all kinds of different stock car racing here in the United States. So NASCAR, super dirt late models, car store, etc. You guys probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but yeah.
No, we're familiar with all that. NASCAR's as American as apple pie, right, Greg?
That's right. I'm a very sportsy kind of guy, so I'm into that sort of thing.
Yeah, big super dirt late model race coming up this week at Eldora. It's basically their Daytona 500. So
cool. I can smell the diesel from here. But anyway, that's it for today. So it just remains me to thank my guests, Greg Owen, Master Neat, Despot of Antrim, and John F. Trent. And we'll say, Kitia no harira, and we'll catch you next time.